Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from Corman Productions with my co-host Stacie, here to talk about from Season 2, Episode 10, Once Upon a Time, the season finale of Season 2. The episode's description reads as follows. Boyd fears he may have finally run out of answers as residents of town prepare for the end. Tabitha clings to the belief that the children could be the key to their salvation. The episode was directed by Jack Bender, and the episode was written by John Griffin and Jeff Pinkler. Before going any further, I'll tell you a couple of things. One, this is not a Support Read podcast. If you haven't watched the episode, I highly recommend you go and check it out, and then come back and give us a listen. Secondly, if you are listening on one of the platforms that this podcast is now available on, please follow and feel free to check out my YouTube channel, Corman Productions, where additional content can be discovered. If you're already on my YouTube channel, please like, share, and comment, and subscribe to our channel. Shoutouts this week to Russell Sutherland. Now, as it turns out, Russell is actually the brother of Carla Mack.
Okay.
Yes.
That explains a lot of connecting the dots between all these conversations we've been having.
Yeah, and it's funny because I shouted him out as two different people last week. I referred to him as Carla's brother.
Yeah.
In a comment where he was actually wrong.
Right. I have that in my notes.
You do? Okay.
Talk about the bracelet situation.
Yes. He said that the bracelet that Jade's friend was wearing before Sarah killed him was the same. It's actually not.
Yes.
And he realized that himself.
But it made me go back and rewatch the pilot again.
Yes.
And I did discover one thing during that, which I mentioned to you, but I haven't mentioned on air, and I'll just tuck that in here really quick, and then you can get back to your shout-outs. I noticed during watching the pilot that the truck that they're driving, that blue truck that we see a few times throughout the series, has a 1958 Wisconsin license plate on it.
Okay, yes, you did mention this.
The truck has not been registered since 1958, which seems notable. It's like the same era as the monsters themselves, not like Victor's era. It's been there longer than that.
Right.
So I think that's that could be important. An important tidbit to keep in mind as the story unfolds.
Yes, as we get to season 3, which we all are hoping for. Fingers crossed.
All the fingers and toes crossed.
So Russell's theories are, to put it mildly, over my head. He's sent me pages of stuff that I couldn't even begin to process down into a little snippet that I could share here. I think I would need a PhD or take a promology class to fully get his theories. And I was thinking about making it a separate thing, a bonus material where I read some of his theories.
Well,
but I was actually thinking, why not just have the guy on and he can explain it himself?
Yeah, we talked about that before, just opening it up to some other crazy theorizing fans like us, and bringing some more voices in, and just having kind of a theory free-for-all.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Yeah.
There a couple of things that I do want to bring up that he mentioned.
Okay.
Is the fact that he showed a picture that was very clock-like, which I know was one of your theories. It was color-coded, and I believe it's the same number as the ghastly children, which of course comes up during the course of this episode.
That number being 7.
Yes. And we also see the ghastly children arranged in a very similar pattern later in the episode.
The picture that I think you might be talking about is the one that I think it was Victor having something to do with mapping the trees.
Okay. There
was different colors in a circle for that.
Yes, okay.
And the notes on that, I haven't looked at that picture in quite a while, but it looked like he was testing the faraway trees or something to that nature, trying to figure out their pattern or whatnot.
And he had an interesting thought that he shared with me that I'm not sure where to share it, so I'll just do it now.
Okay.
But he wrote, what if the boy in white is St. Anthony, while the entity torturing people is a Batabat? I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that. It's a demon that comes out when its trees is cut down, tormenting people in their dreams. So the Batabat is a vengeful demon found in Loakana. It's some kind of folklore. I can't quite pronounce the word. In Tagalong folklore, the creature is called Bangungat.
Yeah, you're going to have to just come on and tell us all this stuff yourself.
Yeah. Well, this part I got myself.
It sounds like you got it.
This one I found on Google.
Oh, okay.
This little description. The Batabat takes the form of an ancient, grossly obese, tree-dwelling female spirit. So I'm in with Carla's brother, and since we're talking about Carla's family, There's also Darla Sutherland, who is her twin sister, and I do have a legit reason for bringing her up. She actually is listening to us now, and she says that she loves our podcast, loves listening to us. At one point, I was going to have Darla be my ship name for me and Carla, but unfortunately, now I can't use that because it's actually the same name as her sister, so I have to think about something else.
Okay, then.
All right, moving along, Latrice, she reached out to me and gave me some love from the whole my friend Jill dying. A couple people did. I appreciate the love. I actually appreciate everybody who's contributed to the podcast this season. It's very much appreciated, being part of the conversation. You guys are what makes this, the podcast what it is.
Yeah. And I'm so grateful that adding From to our lineup became succsul.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Like I wasn't even I thought this might be like the two of us sitting here talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. It started with me saying, I'm getting ready to watch season 2 of From. Maybe I'll just do some quick recap.
Right.
5-minute dialogues for your channel, and Dave's like, nah, I think I'm ready to check the show out, and here we are.
I binged the 10 episodes and just got right to it.
Right into it, and here we are with just some amazing stuff going on with From, to the point where we've kind of neglected the quantum leap of it all.
Yes. We will get back to that.
We had promised a lot of off-season quantum leap content, and we've ignored our quantum leap fandom. So we will be covering both things during the rest of the summer before Quantum Leap comes back in the fall.
Speaking of Quantum Leap, Carla is also a fan of that show as well. So
yay! And has she listened to those?
I don't think she has. I think she just listened to the couple that she has since discovered. I mean, they're like hours long, so
yeah. Well,
people only have so long to actually listen to us
talk,
babble for hours upon hours.
I mean, there's a lot of time in the day.
True, fair enough.
That's what podcasts are for. Turning it on when you're driving, and
that is actually what she does. She listens to us as she drives to work. She also had a theory, Latrice. Now,
okay,
Carla.
Latrice.
She had a theory that I'll share later because it's something that
relevant to this episode.
this episode.
Gotcha.
So, Live Long appreciated my thoughts on dream logic versus real world logic. Now, I wasn't necessarily saying that this is all a dream, but I'm saying that this is going by dream logic, not necessarily real world logic. So please, for the love of God, get off the whole rope thing. Like I just can't see any more of those posts.
Yeah. I mean, the theme of a rope has been recurring.
Okay.
Like we saw a rope again when we get to the lighthouse. That's the same looking rope. It's the same looking rope that we saw when Frank went to the tire swing, or I don't know if it was a tire or just a piece of wood that Megan liked to frequent. It's the same rope. We keep seeing this rope. So I do think the rope is important. But yeah, the whole how did the rope get thrown thing.
Yeah.
We're stuck on that.
Yeah.
Like the fandom is a little stuck on that moment.
That was episode 1. Like, could we get off of that, please? Actually, I think that might have been episode 2, but that's besides the point. Okay,
but I do think the rope is symbolic of something else going on in the bigger picture. When you can see the whole sweater, I think rope in and of itself would be important.
Yes, the whole sweater. That comes up. that might explain the whole crocheting aspect of the last couple of episodes.
Yeah. But does that make Elgin suspicious?
I don't know.
That he's the one crafting this?
I mean, Elgin is always a possibility for suspect for something behind.
That's the thing is, there's so many people who are so suspicious, but I don't even know what I'm suspicious of them for anymore.
Right.
Like, I don't think there's a mole.
No, I don't think so either.
But it does feel like there's suspicious stuff going on at the same time.
Absolutely.
So it's
Ashley Wright, longtime friend of the channel, liked your video game simulation theory. Now that was actually Mad Dog's theory, but you shared it.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, I think what hasn't been disproved thus far. In fact, I think it's still very much a possibility.
I think it's a good possibility at this point that something in the simulation game whole context is very possible, I think.
Yeah, and I think we will be discussing that at the end of this podcast.
I think we're going to be discussing a lot at the end of the podcast.
Yes. And, hopefully some things during the podcast as well.
But I don't think we'll get too deep into overall theories today. We're going to try and rein it in on
a little bit. We're going to do a season 2 recap, so we'll discuss a lot of it there. So one more thing I wanted to discuss before we get into the actual episode, and unless you have some more notes that you would like to talk about.
Go ahead.
Okay. I finished Lost, finally.
Okay.
I saw the final episode.
Yes, and
it, it's an all-time great series. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because a lot of people compare this series to Lost.
Yes.
Mainly because it has the same creative team, but also they complain about it. Like, they say that they compare the series as a negative thing.
Right. Usually the people who are bringing up Lost, other than, like, us, and talking about specific, like, comparable points, is, oh, I hope it doesn't become another Lost.
What do you mean, like an all-time great sci-fi series?
Like, and this... I've typed this comment so many times that I should have it, like, saved in my clipboard on my phone. Yes. That's the reason I'm here.
Right.
Is because they compared it to Lost in the promos. Because they said by the executive producers of Lost, and because Harold Perrineau's in it. That's the reason I checked the show out, literally, in the first place. And then, of course, I got hooked because it's an amazing show.
Oh, absolutely.
But, yeah, Lost is easily in my top 5 of all time. Without me having to think about what that list is, I can tell you Lost is in my top 5.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of people did not like the finale of Lost, and I actually thought it was a very satisfying finale. I thought that the big picture mysteries were solved.
Elements of the last season that felt a little rushed. Like, the creative team knew that. Like, they were told, you're ending the show.
Right.
So they had to finish the story. And they did the best they could to finish the story they were trying to tell in however many episodes they had left to tell it by the time they got the news that they were canceled. And I think it's phenomenal that they wrapped it up. How many shows you told you're canceled and you just end without finishing the story you're trying to tell?
Which is exactly why I don't like picking up and watching first season shows, because I don't want to, like, get invested in the show.
And Lost, I just think Lost is amazing. No, they're not going to go into, like, grave detail on every little tiny aspect of every single character's development and every single thing that ever happened. Some of the things are just not going to be fully explored.
Right.
Because that's
what it
is.
They say they wanted that they didn't get all their questions answered. I feel like the big picture was answered.
Absolutely. All of the big questions are answered. And there's, like I said, there's little things here and there that were never fully explored, but would you expect them to be?
Right.
Like in any other series, every aspect of someone's life explored?
That's the thing here, for this series, bringing it back here, is that no, we are not going to get the answer to every little thing. There are going to be things that are just never going to be explained.
Right.
My hope is that that they'll explain the big picture, and I'm confident we'll get that as long as they
there's
cancel
also
the series early. But
in both cases, and in this entire genre of puzzle box mysteries, there's going to be things that are explained, but you have to read between the lines and connect the dots yourself.
Right.
Things that are never going to ever expressly be said, but if you are paying attention and not saying you're skipping a bunch of scenes,
right?
Like somebody annoyed me today that said that. You're gonna find answers, to most of even the little questions. They're there somewhere. I mean, I'll bring up Dark one more time because that show I think did the best job ever of completing the circle of a puzzle box. Every single detail, every little teeny tiny detail is important to something else, and every single question you could ever have is explained. If you're paying really, 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 really close attention.
Right. Which even my attention span isn't quite that good, which is why I have you to explain things to me.
Yeah.
That's your end of the podcast, is explaining all the things that I'm just too dumb to understand.
And I mean, I don't catch everything either, and that's what we have our audience to help us along the way too.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It takes a Frumley.
Yes, takes a Frumley to raise a village. Okay, so do you have any notes before going into this episode?
I just want to also say, now the season's over. Big thank you to the cast.
Oh yeah,
of From.
I meant to shout them out.
Super duper duper amazing.
Yes.
In making the show, of course, and as well as just interacting with the fandom. It's truly the best show I've experienced as far as cast and fan interactions.
Elizabeth Moy was
and
all over our tweets.
I've had a lot of good ones, so to say this is the best is really a compliment. Elizabeth Moy, yes, she was like in it.
Right.
She was like in our conversation. And then to find out later the night she was at Hannah's party that whole time. How, Elizabeth, did you manage to keep up with our tweets while at this huge, amazing party? That's phenomenal to me that she was able to do that.
I meant to bring up the live stream for Instagram.
Yes.
After the fact.
After the tweeting.
There was a couple of things that I found funny. One, Simon Webster, who plays
He was
Ethan,
adorable.
Yes. And he doesn't look like he's 20 years old yet, so that's a good sign.
No, actually, like, he's 12, right?
Yeah, he's something like that.
I don't know if it's just because they told him to be, like, super subdued because, like, they're afraid he's going to say something he shouldn't say, but I got a younger vibe from him even than I do from Ethan.
Really?
I was like, I can't believe this kid is 12 years old. So I'm not worried about Simon growing up too fast to play Ethan.
Well, you know,
I mean, it's going to happen. It's going to happen
soon. His
soon.
voice is going to start cracking.
But I feel like I feel like he can handle it. Even if, you know, he starts growing, I feel like he's going to do a good job of being able to play a younger character. And he was super adorable, and I loved seeing him on there.
He happened to be wearing a From shirt.
Yes.
That, you know, because of the image being backwards, because that's what happens when you're on camera, it said morph. And I was wondering if maybe that was a clue.
Well, you know, that's something people joked about before in the like the Facebook groups, you know, the people that were getting annoyed at those of us that nitpick everything and search for these tiny clues. Were like, oh my God, backwards just smells morph, and they're making fun of us. That must be something. And then it's funny because you see people in the comments thinking that they're serious and being like, oh my God, here's the definition of that, and here's this, and here's that, like taking it super seriously.
I mean, that's this fandom for you. That's for sure.
There's every single end of the spectrum in this fandom. And I think that's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's great.
Also, I think I'll bring this up more later, but I was very amused watching David Appleby and Scott McCord, who plays Victor and Jade in this series, you know, interacting with the actress who plays Fatima. Do you happen to know how to pronounce her name? I didn't want to get it wrong.
Pega? I'm not sure on the last name. Pega.
And I'll actually have more. I'll actually have more to say about that because they said some interesting things like later towards the end of the podcast. But I'll bring them up again. Stacie, your overall thoughts about the finale?
I thought it was great. I did feel like it was longer. People were It's 58 minutes, and people were criticizing it still, saying it should have been a longer episode. Right. It was already an extended episode. If this was on cable with commercials, it would have been like an hour and a half.
And it wasn't like there was a 5 minutes like recap of
No, it was a normal,
2
2-minute song and the 30-second previously on, and I felt it. I felt like it was longer. It was great. I feel like, we had a big assortment of different types of scenes, different types of emotion.
There was a lot of great scenes.
We hit the horror elements. We hit, some tender, loving moments. We had lots of great discussions. We got Tom back.
Yes. Your best friend, Reed Price, reprising his role.
Yeah, talking about Instagram.
Yes.
Or Twitter, rather. You had said Elizabeth Moy was super on top of it during the live tweets.
Yes.
Well, Reed did not participate in live tweeting. He was actually on an airplane during that time, heading home from his vacation. He was in Hollywood. And last night,
you would
Monday,
know he's like your second best friend now.
Monday night, which is last night, I was trying to take these notes, and I got bombarded with notification after notification from Reed Price.
One of them was on my tweet.
Several of them were on yours.
Yep.
But I got those as well because I tagged in all those. And so he went super hard last night, catching up on all of the tweets from the night before. I mean, not just ours, like everybody's. And liked and commented and retweeted and was like super duper in it, even though, he was a day late. And I was like, wow, this is like amazing that you're taking the time to come do this.
Right, absolutely.
And so shout out to him as well. And I got his permission to share an announcement.
Oh, let's hear it.
Which I didn't even tell you this yet.
Oh, okay.
I mean, the announcement. I didn't tell you that I'm going to announce it.
Okay.
Is we're going to be having a chat with Reed soon.
Oh, sweet deal.
Yeah, he told me go ahead and announce it now that we're, talking about Tom today. And
I'm just curious, does he listen to the podcast at all?
I I actually don't know. Something we can ask him.
Okay.
When we get him on the air.
I actually don't care. I'll just, just happy to talk to Reed Price.
But I told him we will get back to him today with some scheduling notes to figure out when we can sit down and do that.
Well, that's pretty exciting news, folks.
Yeah. And, we do have some other interviews kind of in the works. Nothing we're ready to announce yet, but that's our plan, is to be just continuing the From conversation throughout the summer.
All right, so my thoughts on the finale. I loved it, of course. It had a lot of great scenes. There were a few minor quibbles here and there. But, all in all, I was rather satisfied with how it concluded some of the Season 2 arcs. Yeah, we got to... I actually... When I saw the Season 1 finale, I was kind of pissed off. Because okay, the bus pulls up and that's how the episode ends. You gotta be kidding me with that.
Yeah, but you also didn't have a right to be pissed off because you watched it 2 days before the new season started.
Yeah, I didn't have to wait in a whole year. But I thought that the Season 2 finale was it was satisfying. It included some stuff, and it set some other stuff up.
And people are still complaining, of course, because we got more questions. You're going to get more questions, but I'm totally loving where we're at. I think they did a great job. I'm very comfortable with what they've given us and what they're keeping secret. But I don't want this to sound the opposite of that, but they didn't give us answers. Because every single, and I'm not complaining that they didn't give us answers. I'm not on the, oh my God, we need answers train. I'm just saying that everything they gave us can be interpreted in so many different ways.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Even the, stead hard facts that they're here's a fact. We can look at it and be like, well.
Particularly the last scene of the episode, which we will get to for sure.
Particularly the last scene, but even things related to it, even the most simple conversations of is Tom a ghost or or some entity from this place communicating, and the answer to all of these things can change the whole big picture of what we're talking about. Because we'll get into all of this later, but
it's funny because Lost dealt with ghosts. It had literal ghosts appear within the series. Michael came back as a ghost at one point. And so I think it's quite possible that the Father Khatri and the Tom is actually the spirit of those characters. Right, and that's, and I have a lot to say about that, but I brought that up specifically because the answer to that matters, right? Because it ties into our other whole thing of, do you die to get out? Right. Or what? Right. And if you die, you get out, then you can't be a ghost because you got out. And it's just, there's a lot of circular conversations to be had around every fact, around every theory, and trying to fit pieces together. And I just think that every answer they gave us is still debatable. Right. No, absolutely. There's still so much conversation to be had about everything. Yeah, that makes sense. And but I think it's great. I love that we can sit here and talk about it. It gives us we could probably have hours upon hours of conversations with the fans, with the cast and crew. We could fill up a whole YouTube channel just doing this, and never mind Quantum Leap anymore. But but we're going to get back to Quantum Leap. Yeah. Yes. All right, so let's get into it. Okay. Scene by scene. Yes. We open with Jade on the Loop porch, and we have Christy coming with Kenny. And Christy gives Jade a look. And by the way, this is a really cool shot of from right next to Jade looking up at Christy. All of the cinematography in this series is amazing. There's lots of great shots in this episode. The last few episodes in particular have just been super great cinematography. And I like the fact that we see the motel in the background. The motel sign, rather, not the motel itself. Right. It's a great different angle than what we've seen in the past. And they're here for Julie because Julie's in her weird coma thing. It's the morning. Yeah. I'm glad we didn't spend more time hanging out in the night. We got right to the fact that we're jumping into the next day. They got a lot going on this day. So everybody's in a really bad mood. You can see it. You can see the tension. Nobody slept. Right. Nobody has an answer. Everybody is just at the end of their ropes here. Yeah, you deny me sleep, and I'm not a very happy person. Christy just spent the night sitting at Mariel's bed to be told. Yeah. I'm assuming Kenny's the one who came to Colony House and got them. Guess what? We got another
another patient
Right,
exhibiting
right.
the same signs. And she's coming to see Julie. And
Even though she can't do anything.
she already
for her.
knows there's nothing she can do because
Right.
she already tried to do everything with Mariel. Like,
Right.
you can just see the hopelessness on their faces.
Right. And yeah, very well acted. And I just love the look that Christy gives Jade. Like, it's a super irritable look. I don't know what that was about exactly. Why she seemed to be like broadcasting like so much animosity towards Jade of all people.
I think he just happened to be the one
that was there.
Yeah, for her to
Okay.
give it to. Like I said, they all just have nothing left.
Right. They enter, and Boyd is staring at the ground, presumably where Julie fell.
Yeah, to that spot. And I was wondering at this point, are they trying to make us think she died? Like, I really felt like they were trying to give off that vibe at the beginning.
Yeah, I didn't think that.
I didn't think that, but I felt like maybe they were trying to
fool us.
Keep that question open.
All right, so Christy goes upstairs. Kenny waits for a moment before Boyd irritably suggests he go, help them out.
So Boyd said, Mrs. Lou and Victor took Ethan to the diner. And my first reaction here was Boyd seemed really short with Kenny. I was like, is he mad at Kenny for something?
I had that same reaction. Like, wow. Like, and he does that multiple times in this episode where I'm like, whoa, ease up on your deputy. Yo.
So I rewatched this scene several times, just trying to look at like what's going on with Boyd in this moment. And I came to the conclusion, kind of like we were just saying with Christy, that he's just so upset with the situation. He feels guilty for starting all of this.
Right.
And
there's a lot going on with Boyd.
There's a lack of a solution here. He feels like he's the one who's supposed to find the solution. He has no idea where to go with this. And I just think he can't put on a hopeful face anymore.
Right.
And I think that he was able to kind of show that that frustration to Kenny.
Well, you always hurt the ones you love.
Right.
Yeah.
Is what I'm going to say is I think this just shows a side of mutual respect between Boyd and Kenny, that he's able to just be his honest self right now of, I don't have any more positivity left to show.
Right.
And, I'm going to be short with you because that's how I really feel inside right now. I don't have energy to like say, all right, let's pull it together. Let's figure out what to do next. He doesn't have a smile left to give. And I honestly think that him just kind of showing that to Kenny speaks to them fixing their relationship.
Oh, absolutely.
More than it does, at first I thought, oh, he's got a problem with Kenny right now.
Right. No, I didn't see it that way. I just thought, like everything you just said, I didn't see it as a specific problem directed at Kenny, for sure.
Well, my first watch through, that's what I thought. I was like, what, did I miss something? Is he, like, did something come out about what happened with Sarah? He's mad at Kenny for that. But yeah, I just think we're seeing all of these characters just really be
at the end of the rope.
At the end of their rope and done pretending that it's going to be okay. At this moment, they're just they don't know what to do.
Right. Boyd goes outside, and Jade is just distraught over the Julie situation. He talks about how there is too much they don't know, that they got certain puzzle pieces and not even the useful ones, like the ends or whatever. The corners, yes. Jade's words seemingly give Boyd an idea. Kenny comes out and asks, hey, where are you going? And Boyd says he needs to talk to Sarah, and Kenny follows. And that's significant because even though he's not wearing the badge anymore, he's still very much acting like Boyd's deputy.
Yeah, they've come together because they know it's their job. Boyd knows it's his job to figure this out, and Kenny is there to support him.
Yes, absolutely.
And do whatever he can to help. And this is that scene that I had, that had been released early, and I just love this whole conversation that Jade has about the puzzle pieces, needing to find two pieces that fit together. I had actually tweeted out something about this, and it was a great message to all of the trolls who are saying the same thing. We don't know anything. They're not giving us any answers. We have to just put the pieces together.
Right.
That's our job as viewers of a mystery show, is to help unravel the mystery, and it's going to take time.
And there's more than a few people willing to do that.
Yeah.
And for those who aren't,
for those
something else
who aren't, just it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay that you don't need to watch it. You don't need to love it. But you also don't need to join forums simply to say, I joined this forum just to tell you this sucks.
Right. Yeah, there is a lot of that going on for sure.
Which tells me the fact that you're giving the show attention in the first place means there is something about it you like. So
we cut to Donna, who's driving out in the RV with Elgin.
Driving in the van.
In the van.
To the RV.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say.
Don't think the RV's driving anywhere these days.
Not. It's kind of done. With Elgin and Dale, who, okay, so does this clarify Dale's situation?
Dale's alive.
Well, we do know that Dale's alive.
Yeah.
This
was the moment we found out he's alive. Because remember, we were worried about him last episode.
We were.
Nobody mentioned him. Nobody checked on him. We were like, did anybody even tell him not to go to sleep?
Right. Dale's alive, but he's out and about. Does that mean he's free? He's
out and about, and he's bitching that he can't go to sleep, and that he was put on corpse collecting duty. And, my answer to that is it's better to be on corpse collecting duty than to be the corpse.
Right. I agree with that for sure.
So, yeah, Donna using him to come help. I think part of it is maybe she just wants to keep him close so she can keep an eye on him. Not only, to make sure he doesn't do something stupid, but to make sure nobody does something stupid to him.
Right. By
leaving him alone in the house.
See, at this point, you have Sarah, who's actually killed people.
Yeah.
And there's a reason to keep her around. Sure, fine, whatever.
But she was never even locked up.
Right.
She was never even put in a cell.
Randall, his situation...
I mean, they think he's dead
right.
at this moment.
But even when he, they find that he's not dead, or, they clarify his situation... They gonna lock him up? Probably not, for his actions last episode. So, I don't know, I'm okay with Dale being free.
Yeah.
Because at this point, are you guys even, pretending to punish people anymore?
I mean, at this point, they think they're all gonna die in the next 24 hours. So, which begs to question, why are they coming to look for Randall in the first place? Right. If you really think you're about to die?
That's interesting in itself, is that Randall tied Donna up to a tree, and, threatened her life, basically.
Right.
And she's still going to look for him. I mean, she didn't bother trying to save him in the last episode, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
But she's still going to look for his corpse, which is a respectful thing to do.
Right. And Dale questioned, why are we looking for him? And she's like, Randall says, he's an asshole. Or Dale says, Randall's an asshole.
Right.
And Donna's like, well, you're an asshole too, but I wouldn't leave your corpse out here to rot.
Right, exactly. So that says something about Donna's character.
But also, we learn when they do find Randall, Dale says, weren't there supposed to be monster bodies here? So I think that was her motivation also, to go just kind of peek on what happened with the silver bullets.
Right.
She was expecting to find dead monsters.
And no such luck there. And I think that's a good thing, because I think there would be more cicadas if that happened. So they find Randall. He's basically in the same state as Mary and Julie. They don't see any dead monsters. Donna orders them to get Randall into the van. And just before Dale can even start to do anything, Randall starts screaming. And they're like, ah!
Yeah.
And this scene is hilarious. It's really kind of funny when he starts screaming and Dale, freaks out. And but then we cut to Julie. Christy's checking on her.
Christy and her parents are there.
And she starts screaming.
She starts screaming as well, yeah.
And then Mary at County House, she also starts screaming.
Yeah, and Ellis and Fatima are the ones with her, since Christy left to go check on Julie.
And credits.
Yeah, so if we had any doubts of who the three are, which we did have those doubts, right? Yes. There were still questions on, did this mean something else?
Right.
No, they're telling us right here, these are the three.
Right.
Whatever's happening to them, that's what we're dealing with.
Que sera, sera for the last time this season.
Yeah.
I'm sad. So when we come back from the credits, we have Kenny, Sarah, and Boyd walking in the woods. And, it's funny, in the end of season 1, we saw a lot of traveling, to get to the ruins.
Well, they episodes 9 and 10.
Right. They didn't end up in the ruins, but at that point. But it just seems like they presented it as being really far, and we get to these locations really quick.
So this particular location where Kenny and Boyd and Sarah are going, which is the ruins of Martin's chamber.
Right.
I never thought of that as far away.
No.
Because, remember, he took the faraway tree to get there.
Right, okay.
So where he was prior to that was far away.
Right, okay.
But then he ended up here. And remember, when he came out of that first night, he was very quickly able to get from there to Victor's truck.
Fair enough.
So we know that these ruins are close to Victor's truck. And we know that Victor's truck can't be too far away from town because he goes there on a regular. And that night, Elgin was able to run to find the truck when he was running away from the diner.
Okay.
But the point is valid later on when
right.
we get to the bottle tree. I agree with you there.
Boyd is catching Sarah up to speed.
Yeah.
He's asking about the boy in white. And...
Right, so he put two pieces together,
right?
He took Jade's discussion about finding two puzzle pieces that fit, and he realized he has two puzzle pieces that fit. And that is the fact that Sarah talked about the boy in white being who told her to send him into the tree in the first place, and the fact that Elgin was talking about the boy in white in his dream.
Right.
So he put this connection that, boy in white... Two people have seen him that, he knows about.
Right.
So that's what he's asking Sarah about. And he recites the rhyme to her. Does that mean anything to you? And she's like, no. Like, of all these people that have heard this rhyme,
right.
Sarah hasn't, which is hilarious because
right.
Sarah's the one who's supposedly on the inn here.
Well, she will learn hear it pretty soon.
Yeah.
They find the ruins, and Boyd ends up explaining what happened with Martin and all that.
Yeah. And I've been saying for a few episodes now, this is where he needs to go back. This is
right.
where you saw the music box physically. This is where you need to look.
Right, and he's finally taking you up on his
there.
advice. But Sarah ends up hearing the music box.
Yeah, she said, it's here.
Right.
It's right here. She knew it was there.
She points to where it's at, but they can't see it. She starts freaking and says that she can hear Julie, Randall, and Mary screaming.
Yeah, she can hear the three screaming. And, we'll soon find out they're here, too,
right.
in the same sense that the music box is. And this got me thinking, all of the different times she's heard voices, could those have been coming from this other plane of existence?
I think so.
The location, where Martin's chamber is.
Right.
So it's the same physical locations, but it's like a different dimension or plane or what be it. Like, for example, she's in the clinic, and she's hearing the voices telling her exactly what to do to Toby. Is that because whoever is talking to her is in the clinic, but in this other realm?
I'm curious if it's the same voice that's communicating with her in this scene.
Right.
So she ends up hearing the nursery rhyme. Her nose is bleeding. She's freaking out. Boyd says they need to get her out of there. Kenny starts to help him do so. And I guess she ends up pushing them away. And she says, the entity is laughing at Boyd for releasing it. It was so excited when it touched Boyd's arm, though.
Kenny's arm.
Kenny's arm? Okay.
And it's referring to the dream.
Right.
Our first time we saw the cicadas.
Right.
So this is where we realize it,
right,
whatever the entity it is, was collectively controlling the cicadas.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty convinced the cicadas are the same thing as the worms.
Yeah, at this point.
At this point, I'm pretty sure that the worms and the cicadas are one and the same. And they're basically a hive mind to whatever it is.
Right.
And this is where we find out. They specifically say touched. This is where we can put it together.
Right.
We weren't talking about which characters of humans touched and broke and stole.
Right. They touched Kenny's arm.
Mm-hmm.
They broke
Paula.
broke Paula. And then they stole the three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they really... We talk about how they don't, hold your hand through this, but they did in this episode. And still people missed it.
Right.
The dialogue specifically says, touched Kenny's arm.
Right.
Later, when we get to that, but Reggie's like, they broke us.
Right. Yeah, they were pretty clear with that.
Yeah.
I mean,
And so people who still aren't following along, you're just not paying enough attention. I'm sorry. And those aren't our listeners. Those are, those people that are like, I skipped all these scenes. They were boring.
Okay. So she says that it wants to make them suffer. And once Julie, Randall, and Mary die, that's it.
Yeah.
Now, when I first watched this, I'm like, yeah, when people die, that's it. But I think, I got clued in the second time I watched.
Yeah,
that
and Boyd goes over this again later when he's explaining it to Donna. Again, this is them kind of hand-holding for us.
Right.
What they're saying here is these three are going to die, and if you let that happen, then this force has taken over.
Right.
It's going to be too late to stop it from killing everybody in their dreams.
So Boyd needs to make the music stop. And Boyd asks, how can I stop something that I can't see? And Sarah cries some more. And then we cut to Donna. who is touring the house like a captain who expects that she's about to go into the final battle and die soon.
Yeah, everybody here is very glum
Right.
looking. They all have come to terms that they think they're dying.
Mm-hmm.
They managed to stay up all night without sleeping, but now what?
Mm-hmm.
And nobody has any energy.
They see, Donna specifically sees Tilly leading a prayer group.
She's leading a prayer circle.
Yeah, and I'm not buying it. I think she's
Okay.
talking to demonic forces.
Listen, the first time I saw this scene,
Yeah.
I said, ooh, Tilly's finally doing something that's not suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
She's a woman who's dying. She's come to terms with it. And now she's helping these people do the same thing she's already done in her journey to come to terms with the fact they're about to die. And she's like, they're reading like last rites type of prayers.
Right.
Right? And I was like, this is a touching moment. She's leading a prayer circle. Until we see everything that happens in the rest of the episode, particularly, you know, with these kids. And watching this by the second time, you realize there's 7 people in this prayer circle.
Okay.
And suddenly, Tilly is just as suspicious as ever
Mm-hmm.
that she managed to pull 7 people into a circle.
Was Bacta in that circle?
I don't think so.
Was Bacta even in this episode?
Um,
Because I don't recall seeing her at all.
I don't know. I think she might have been in the background in this scene. I'm not positive, but I think the other 6 people in the circle were just extras. I don't think there was
Okay.
anybody else. That
Nobody
we know.
significant?
I don't think so.
Donna wanders over to Matthias, okay, to lock the guns up in the shed.
Yeah, so basically she thinks things are going to get bad and we need to lock the guns away before something bad happens.
Right. You don't want people who are...
We don't want people to have guns
Right.
in this state of mind that they're in.
Turns out these instincts are pretty good, but she's just a little too late on them.
little too late. There
right,
you go.
Right. So we cut to Tabitha with Jim and Julie. Tabitha wants to go to the tower to save the ghastly children, thinking it's their way out.
And, you know, it's a way to save Julie.
Right. Jim thinks pursuing theories is what almost got everybody killed.
Yeah, he's like, I had a theory and I almost died. And I'm like, which one, Jim?
Right, well,
Because everything that you two have pursued so far has
Right.
almost gotten you killed.
see, the problem isn't, Jim, that you had a theory. The problem is you're stupid.
Yeah. Tabitha digging the hole almost
Right.
got everybody killed.
Mhm.
You doing the radio tower almost got everybody killed.
Yeah, maybe you guys should just stop
you
doing things in general.
Going out to the RV almost got everybody killed.
Right.
But I found it interesting. She's asking Jim permission.
Mhm.
She's like, I need you to tell me it's okay to do this because they both know there's a chance she doesn't come back.
Right. Yeah. He specifically brings up Victor's mom and how she's gone, and now Victor basically had to.
Victor had to raise himself, but guess what, Jim? That's what you're here for. If she doesn't come back, your kids still have you at least.
Yeah. I'm sorry, kids. I'm sorry. I mean, there's always Julie, but we know how that goes. Okay, so yeah, Jim points out that Victor's mom never returned. That's a moment of sympathy for Victor that Jim gave him, and he's still kind of rude to Victor later when he ends up talking to him.
Which is the next scene.
Right. Tabitha knows, and that's why she needs Jim to say it's okay for her to go. Victor's hanging out downstairs with Ethan and Mrs. Wu.
Yeah, they just got back from the diner. They brought food.
And I should point out again that Victor's now just casually hanging around with Mrs. Wu and Ethan.
Yeah, they
Like,
have become a family unit.
Yes. Tabitha comes down and says she needs to talk to Victor. And Ethan, adorably, I might add, asks, is Victor in trouble?
Yeah, that was cute.
She asks Victor if he knows the way to the tower. Victor says no, but says he knows the way to the bottle tree, which gets her to the tower. Jim is kind of rude in the background, asking, the what?
Yeah, right. He was very rude.
Like, I don't mind the question, I mind how he posed it.
Right, because you can tell he thinks Victor's a joke.
Mhm.
He doesn't believe anything Victor says. And I just had to say, in this scene, Victor is being so brave.
Mm-hmm.
Do we remember, like, back in season 1, you ask him a simple question, like, how long have you been here?
Right.
We can't talk about that.
Well, that's the thing now, is that I think that really demonstrates his new relationship with Tabitha.
Absolutely.
Which he's potentially going to lose now, and I
Yeah.
think he's very aware of that.
But yeah, he's grown so much, as you know, you were saying on Twitter.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you know how hard it is for him to talk about this stuff. You know how hard it is for him to say anything about this time in his life.
Mm-hmm.
And Like, he's really willing. He's really trying. And if everybody who says, oh, he's holding back. No, he's really trying here. You can tell.
Mm-hmm.
He's giving everything he has to be brave and do what he can to help Tabitha and to help Julie. Like, that's what most of these characters' inspirations in this episode is, we want to help Julie, which is...
I have a comment. I have a comment about that later.
It's funny because they don't even mention the other two.
Well, Randall, why would you care about him at this point?
Right.
Mary, you know, she's a little bit of a different story. I think these characters feel the same way that the fans do.
Does, yeah.
Like, basically, fuck Randall. I mean, some people like Randall.
Randall.
I don't understand why, but...
I think those are the same people that we have problems with in other aspects, so...
Right. Yeah. And they're indifferent to Mary for the most part. Some of them actively want her dead, like a certain co-host of mine, just because...
Listen, I don't want her dead. I just want her out of the picture.
Right, okay. All right, so Tabitha asks if Victor can get her to the tree. And Victor says he can. And Jim asks for a second, sort of politely there. Tabitha tells Jim she needs to do this. Jim says he knows, but doesn't really say anything. His face says most of it, for him. Basically, he doesn't want to lose Tabitha. By the way, I'm going to ask you a question. How do you feel about Jim at the end of the season? Did this episode help him at all after the last episode?
I mean, maybe a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's there for his kids.
Yeah.
He's kind of, I don't know. I'm okay with the fact that he's still alive.
Well,
but
that's a move in his general direction.
But I think he's got a long way to go to, make me want to root for him.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we cut to Boyd, Kenny, and Sarah. They're still in the forest. Sarah's, basically leaning up against one of the boulders. Kenny asks Boyd, what are they supposed to do?
And Boyd gives us another, let's go. We gotta go.
Yeah. Boyd says, they gotta go back to town. And Kenny's like, what are you talking about? Sarah says that we need to destroy the music box. And Boyd's like, well, how are we supposed to do that? And Kenny's like, I don't know, but the answer is not in town.
Right.
There are lives at stake here. And this is another moment where Boyd is really testy with Kenny. He's like, well, you don't need to fucking remind me of that. I know what's at stake here. And then I think Boyd realizes he's being over the top because he calms down. He says, look, the best thing we can do... Oh, okay, so... he says they know more than they did before, and that's a win. Yeah,
which is another thing that I quoted that on Twitter, and that's where we are after this episode. Right? We know more. We got more puzzle pieces. We might not have answers per se, but we got more clues. And clues are what we need to find the answers.
Kenny asks, what are they supposed to tell the people? And Boyd tells them to tell the people that they're working on it. Best thing they can do is go help people feel calm and less afraid. And Boyd asks if Kenny can do that. Yeah. And Kenny agrees. And it's really funny to me that he uses this advice not to help the general populace, but one person.
Well, he does, yeah. Yes. And that's notable of who he wants to keep calm. But what I found interesting about this is Kenny's now in the same exact position he was in at the beginning of the season. Mm-hmm. In 201, Donna tasked him with keeping everybody calm.
Right.
And, I was reminded of that because that's one of the main gifts that come up when you're, looking for gifts for the show is Kenny standing in front of the van being like, keep people calm. Got it. And it's like, yep, here you are still, Kenny. That's still your job. Go keep people calm. Right.
As I recall, he didn't do it very well the first time.
He didn't, no.
And he doesn't really demonstrate growth in that way other than, helping Christy later out in this episode. But we'll get there. Meanwhile, we cut to Colony House.
And we're outside of Colony House.
Yes. Ellis approaches Reggie and asks if he's okay. And Reggie asks, why do people ask the question when the answer is obvious? And that's a good question, actually. I think, people, they want to, support somebody who's hurting, but you don't really know what to say.
Yeah.
So you just come up with, these stupid things to say that aren't really overly helpful.
Right.
But you're trying. You're showing that you care. And I have absolutely no reason why Ellis would care about Reggie at all.
Right. Do they even know each other?
No. Not as far as I know. I mean, this is the only scene they've had together other than what was going on last week at Colony House.
Yeah. And Reggie apologizes for that.
Mm-hmm.
He basically apologizes for being crazy last night. He says, Paula's the one that knew how to handle shit.
Right.
Like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. He blames himself for Paula's death, saying he was just downstairs cooking dinner while she was dying.
Yeah, and I didn't realize, how easy it is to break us.
Right. Yes.
And that's them telling us again.
Mm-hmm.
Telling us, if you didn't get it,
hint, hint.
break.
Big neon
We
sign.
broke Paula
Yes.
and Reggie. Physically broke Paula, broke Reggie's spirits, and broke his sanity.
Ellis tells him that it's no one's fault.
Yeah, now Ellis is trying to give Reggie a pass here because he thinks Reggie's blaming himself.
Right.
And on second rewatch here, you can see this is foreshadowing that Reggie doesn't believe that it's no one's fault.
Right.
He's like, yeah, no one's fault. And, once you know what happens later in this episode, it's clear right here. Oh, that's where he was going with that.
Right. And Reggie says, yeah, it's no one's fault, and walks away. Now, the fandom didn't like the scenes with Reggie last week.
Yeah, they were really hard on this actor, and I don't have his name in front of me. I apologize for that.
I happen to disagree.
Yeah, you supported him
Yes.
really well. I mean, I think he was okay. I don't think he was, phenomenal, but I think he was playing the part he was supposed to play.
Right. And I think he was good in this scene. That's unfortunately the last time that I'm going to compliment Reggie or this actor in this episode. I mean, I don't really fault the actor for what happens with these scenes.
I thought he was great in this scene.
Yeah. He was
like I
super great.
said, I was able to really see it, once I know where we're going, and watch it again and be like, oh, I see you. He did pull off what he was meant to do here.
Right. I'm just kind of disappointed that it seemed like we have an opportunity to do something more with this character than what we ended up doing. And it feels like a waste.
I feel like that was the point, was to put us on edge. Kind of the way they're all on edge right now, expecting the worst.
Right.
And this put us on edge as an audience, expecting something really bad to happen.
Well, especially what happens later. Fatima ends up approaching Ellis, and he says he doesn't know what he would do if Paula was her. That what had happened to Paula happened to her. And Fatima suggests that they get married.
Today.
Yes. Make the most of the time they have left, and Ellis ends up agreeing.
Yeah, which is funny because this is the third time they've said, let's get married.
This scene happens in almost reverse. It's usually Ellis making the suggestion, and this time it's Fatima.
Right, because they said at the beginning of the season, let's do it now. And then too much has happened. They haven't had a chance.
Right.
So they're going to get married today because they honestly think they're dying today.
Right.
Because they're going to die the second they fall asleep, and they're all really low on energy at this point.
Yeah. Jade is in Tom's bar, breaking bottles.
And so he's breaking all of these bottles. He's trying to put the pieces back together in different ways, still thinking about his whole jigsaw puzzle analogy. This is an epic jigsaw puzzle he's working on. All these little bits of different colored shards of glass. And this is another example where I thought the cinematography was just amazing.
Oh, absolutely.
We got this almost seamless cut where the camera, you would think it's one shot, except we know it can't be.
Right.
So the camera follows Jade across the room, and then it follows him back, and in the interim, Tom, our favorite bartender, just appears.
Mr. Reed Price himself.
And it was just beautiful. If you blink, you miss it. And if you rewatch that shot, they just did it so seamlessly.
Oh, yeah,
and
absolutely.
I thought
it was absolutely beautifully done. So Tom appears and asks, hey, what are you doing with my bar? And Jade explains, and then turns to Tom and says...
He's answering him. He says, it's a thought experiment.
Right.
He's about to explain it, and he's like, wait, didn't you die?
And Tom is basically says, correct. Jade nonchalantly is just like, well, yeah, as long as we're on the same page.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page.
And it's funny, Jade has been through so much shit this season, with visions and stuff like that. He barely even reacts to Tom.
Exactly, and that's what Tom says. He goes, aren't you going to ask if I'm real? And Jay says, I assume you're a stress-induced psychosis, and you'll go away on your own.
Now, my question is, and I know you posed it.
Well, my question is, no, Jade, I want you to ask Tom if he's real.
Right.
I want to hear from him. Are you real?
Right.
He might lie.
Yeah, he could. He could very well. Ghosts are just as capable as lying as
anyone.
But
when he says, aren't you going to ask me if I'm real? Yeah, ask him if he's real. Let's get his opinion.
All right, so you had a poll on Twitter.
Okay, so I did a poll with 3 options this time. Okay, my options were, we're going to agree with Jade that it's stress-induced psychosis, meaning it's literally in Jade's head. He's sleep deprived, he's stressed, and he's just hallucinating on his own. The second option being, this is the ghost of bartender past. We're dealing with Tom. Okay. And the third option is it's something else, a Fromville entity projecting themselves as Tom's image or whatnot. It's something else that From is showing us, trying to be deceptive about who we're seeing.
All right, so my vote on that was that it was actually the ghost of Tom, because that's actually what I want it to be.
I'm right with you. I want it to be Tom.
Yeah.
But it might be something else. I don't think it's just Jade's imagination, because it can't be. Mm-hmm. Because why would it be in this place?
Right.
And there's arguments all over this. And I think we could sit here and analyze this whole scene. And I don't think there's an answer. And I don't think there is an answer. I don't think they have an answer to give us.
Right. What were the poll results?
Okay, so I got 24 votes in the poll. 13% agreed with Jade. Mm-hmm. So obviously that's not it. I think maybe Jade was too sleep deprived to realize that wasn't the best answer when he said it. Mm-hmm. 42% think it is the ghost of Tom, and 46% think it is some other From entity.
See, when I voted, it was like dead even between the last two
right
answers.
To the last minute. They were tied at like 44 or 45%, and then one person must have swayed that vote in the last minute. So that's pretty split, though. It's something we're going to have to ask Reed about, see what his opinion is.
I am so excited to do that. Tom ends up sampling the Jade's alcohol and is impressed with the improvement.
Yeah, he makes a comment. You changed the still.
And Jade is like, thank you.
Or you're welcome, rather.
Yeah, oh yeah. Tom thinks Jade is overthinking it. Overthinking the entire thing. He already knows what he needs to do, which is to go to the tunnels.
Yeah. And Jade says that would be insane, but Tom says that could save Julie's life. Again, we're only focusing on Julie in this conversation.
Jade angrily says he doesn't even know if he would find anything down there. And he ends up saying that nothing about this place is natural. And Tom says he's wrong. Nothing about this place is familiar. Yeah. There's a difference.
Right. So that says a lot. Mm-hmm. So whatever Tom is here, he's telling us this is natural. Right. It's just not the nature you're familiar with. Right. We're in a different environment.
See, this is one of the reasons beyond hope that I think this is not just some kind of hallucination of Jade's. Because I don't think Jade has this answer in him.
That's the thing. Okay, so some people are saying, well, he can't be a ghost because he took a drink. Okay, but if he was a hallucination or a vision, he couldn't take a drink either. So that doesn't disprove anything.
Right.
And I don't know. So he's saying a lot of Tom-like things, right? And he starts going into philosophy, which is
He brings up the trolley problem and determinism.
It sounds like stuff Tom would say, but also Jade's had that type of conversation with him before. He knows that about him. They're the ones who, talked about Schrodinger's cat.
Right.
So could Jade just be imagining that that's what he could be.
Well, it's the same thing with Khatri.
Exactly.
It could be very well the same kind of conversations that they used to have, Boyd and Khatri.
Right. But I very much think whatever is happening with Tom is the same thing that's happening with Khatri.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They're on the same page.
They're connected for sure.
But yeah, he says here that, this caves is the answer because it's the same reason that your brain's inside your skull, your heart's inside your ribs. Nature puts the most precious things in the most difficult places to reach.
Makes sense. And Jade asks, so I'm supposed to take advice from a person who ran into a house to save someone who wasn't even there and ended up dying? And Tom says he would do it again.
He would do it again. And Jade's like, you're an idiot.
And they both laugh.
They both
together.
laugh.
This is a lovely scene.
Again, something that feels like it's not Jade because is he going to have two opposing views like that?
Right.
Or is it the devil and the angel on your shoulder? I mean, I don't know. But yeah, this is where he says, I wasn't thinking of the trolley problem or determinism. He just wanted to do what was right, and he thought someone's in trouble and he was going to do what he could to help. And right now there's a 16-year-old girl who needs Jade's help.
Right.
Again, we're not talking about the other two people that are in the same condition.
No.
We're not talking about the fact that if they die, everybody dies.
Right.
We're talking about saving Julie.
Now, it's interesting that they specifically dropped Julie's age here because I don't think we actually knew
this is
the
our
exact
first,
age.
like, we had assumed she was 16, 17.
Mhm.
This is the first time we're told she's 16.
Right.
And also one other thing about that, the whole, like, unfamiliar, not unnatural. I felt like that really mirrored what Christy was talking about in episode 9 about the ball of magic fire.
Yes, absolutely.
It was kind of the same analogy. Like, just because we don't understand it doesn't mean it's not just the way it is.
And, I mean, obviously it is the way it is.
It is the way it is.
It is that way.
But, you know, they're really leaning to say, like, this isn't some fake environment. It's just a different environment.
Right.
Which, I don't know, does that lean towards, like, we're on a different planet or a different dimension or aliens or
I'm still leaning
a
towards
natural sort of...
I'm still leaning towards some kind of pocket universe on planet Earth.
Yeah, but something real.
Right.
These type of thoughts are leaning towards. Not... These type of thoughts are not leaning towards simulation, game. I don't know. You could argue... I could argue any... I really feel like I could be good at debating any topic in any theory at this point because...
On From or any topic, period?
On From. I mean, like, all of these theories have so much for and against them. And I think that they're doing an amazing job keeping all options open.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, so we cut to Boyd and Sarah. Sarah asked him, rather bluntly, I should ask, did you bury Paula yet? And Boyd is like... He
looks like he's forgotten.
Right.
Right, that we've got another body to bury.
Yep.
And she volunteers. She says, I'll do it. I'll go get some people, and I'll do it right now. And I think this is really suspicious.
How so?
I feel like the fact that she brought this up when there's so much else going on, that she volunteered so quickly to go bury a body, she could just be trying to help Boyd.
That's the way I kind of lean towards
But, I don't know. I kind of thought maybe, did she get another direction from a voice that she hasn't told us about, and she's, like, going to bring Paula's body somewhere?
Maybe.
Like, I almost felt like she wants to take Paula's body and do something with it.
Well, you can have it. I don't want it.
Like, did someone tell her, bring it here, bring it there, bury it, cut her tongue out like you did Toby's? Like...
Right.
I don't know. It felt really suspicious that she's going on about Paula's body.
Okay, so before she leaves, she tells Boyd that he's doing the best he can. And this does not seem to comfort Boyd one iota. We cut to Matthias, who is putting the guns away. Reggie joins him, asks him about it, and then slits his throat. Okay, I gotta ask, what's up with almost all the deaths being slit throats?
Yeah, do you see my notes about it?
Oh, okay.
A lot of people have died in the throat.
Right.
Both slitting and other things involving the throat. So, Toby died, Sarah killed Toby by stabbing him through the throat. Nathan was slit across the throat. Katri was slit across the throat by the monster's claws. Eric hung himself by the throat. Smiley kind of sort of died through his throat.
Right.
And now Matthias.
So, what does that mean?
Right. Right.
It's just it's too recurring of a motif for it to mean nothing.
Almost everybody that didn't have eaten by a monster involved their throat.
And that's not a good way to go.
No.
That's a really unfortunate way to go. And so he ends up taking a gun and telling the dying Matthias that it's okay. He's just going to go a little sooner than the rest of us. And I have a literal note here that says, fuck Reggie. for killing Matthias.
Yeah. And you know, my comment on this was, it's really dangerous in this world to be a background character that has a name. Because you're the most expendable here.
Well, it's funny because when Katri died last season, I thought that was the sign that nobody was safe.
Right.
That they might be willing to kill regulars. But so far they've shown a complete unwillingness to do that.
Yeah.
And I thought in this episode it was kind of necessary to kill off at least somebody. But they didn't end up doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with it, of course.
But if you have a name and you're not a regular, you're in danger.
Yes. You're definitely on the chopping block.
Like Dale, Clara,
who
else we got hanging out there? I don't know.
Well, not Matthias anymore, that's for sure.
Watch your backs. If you're not a main cast member and you have a name, watch your back.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're an extra and you don't have a name yet, maybe you don't want one.
So we cut to Jade, who's going into the caves, and he encounters the ventriloquist that growls at him again, much like he did in the season premiere.
Now, see, I took it as Jade screamed because he saw it. I didn't think the dummy screamed.
I could have sworn I heard a growl coming from the dummy itself. Like it was the same kind of growl that that the dummy made when he encountered Jade in the premiere, if I recall correctly. Maybe I'd have to watch again.
Yeah, I don't know. I took it as him. But you know what I found scary about this is that the dummy moved. He's not in the same place he was the last time we saw him in the caves.
No.
The last time we saw him in the caves, he was sitting on a chest, around a bunch of other junk. And this time he's kind of all by himself sitting on a rock. And we know he's really there because Jade touches him. It's not just a vision.
Right.
So the physical dummy has moved.
Right.
Did a monster move it?
Just chilling like
Did
its own.
Did it get up and walk on its own?
Maybe. I was kind of kept expecting it to see it start moving. And I was like, Jade, please don't touch that thing. I wouldn't, that's for sure. But I guess he's a braver man than me.
I mean, he's showing a lot of bravery by doing this.
By
Like, to
even
go
being
into
there in
the
the first
tunnel,
place.
he did tie up a ball of twine. He's bringing it with him so he doesn't get lost. He's being as smart about this as he can be.
Right.
If you're going to do this. But yeah, when the screaming happened, I said, it's a good thing there wasn't a monster sleeping right there that you just woke up. And on that note, where are the monsters?
Well, they weren't always like around one area. They were like throughout the cave.
He's throughout the caves in this episode and didn't run into any of them.
Huh. Well, that's a good question.
Actually, we didn't see any monsters this whole episode at all. I mean, it's daytime, so they wouldn't be out and about, but he's all over those caves.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. So we cut to Boyd, who enters the church, and he starts ranting at God.
Yeah, anybody up there he's talking to, complaining about his situation, starts talking about Father Cawtrey.
Right. And, this scene kind of reminds me of a West Wing episode from a long time ago, where the President of the United States, starts railing at God in the middle of an empty church. That was a really good scene from the season 2 finale of West Wing, if there are any West Wing fans here. I kind of doubt it, but, So, yeah, he calls God a real fucking asshole. He wants to know why he made him think that he could fix things. A dumb motherfucker who just keeps getting people killed.
Right, which I thought, this is great. We were talking about it. Boyd doesn't have anything left. He needs to have a breakdown.
Right.
And I kind of wonder if he went here hoping to find Cawtrey.
That's what I expected to see.
Because he needs someone to talk to, and he doesn't have anybody.
Yes, he ends up kicking over the pew, and he gets something better.
Which he kicks over the mailbox pulpit.
Right.
And, he gets somebody to talk to. His prayers are actually answered here.
Yes.
In that Donna enters, and she has a great one-liner here. She goes, tampering with a mailbox is a federal crime.
That was a great line. And, Donna has basically become Boyd's Cawtrey.
Yeah. And we know Donna and Boyd have always had, kind of a love-hate relationship, but we really get the impression that
they've really grown this season.
Yeah, they've come together quite a bit in the time that we've been with them, compared to, where they were before. We get the impression they kind of respected each other. They respected each other's boundaries previously, but they really just kept separate. And now they're working together a lot.
Yes. And it's a pleasure to see. Every scene with them is gold. Christy and Mary, Kenny enters and sits with her. And Christy asks, is this really it? Is this the end?
Yeah, and I said, let's hope not.
Yes, let's hope not. And Kenny says, his father used to say that it's hard to see the sweater when all you have is a thread.
When all you are is a thread.
Oh, okay.
So in this analogy, you're the piece of thread.
Okay.
And you can't see what you're a part of.
And maybe we aren't the ones that gets to go home. But maybe what we did is the reason the next people get to go home. Just because we're only a thread doesn't mean that we don't matter.
Yeah.
I absolutely love this scene. It's a great scene for Kenny. And I think it might even be the last one of the episode. I don't think we see him again after this.
I think you might be right. And, I love this analogy. So this is coming from Kenny's dad. And to say that comes up a lot in this episode where we're pulling on things that dead characters have inspired upon them, right? Kenny talks about his dad. Later, Fatima brings up things her dad said. Ethan asks about his dead grandpa. So I don't know if it's just that their past loved ones are on their minds when they think they're about to die.
Right.
Or if this has some bigger meaning. They were hinting at all of these dead people
Mm-hmm.
in this episode, but that keeps coming up.
Right.
Where we're being reminded of these people who aren't with them anymore.
Mm.
And I love this analogy. And I feel like this is important. I actually have one theory at the end that I think leans towards this, which I think is a wild theory, but this particular thing Kenny says is what makes me think it. And so, we'll get to that when we talk about the last scene, but the whole idea that, maybe it's not about us. Maybe we're just a stepping stone in the bigger story. And we're important to the future of this story.
Makes sense.
And it also, this whole thing kind of reminded me again of the forest for the trees, which was another episode title.
Yes.
So I feel like we keep calling back to those other points that we've already touched upon this season.
Well, I believe somewhere the writers have said that they, like, every season is going to be like an added layer. So, like, season 1 is a layer, and then season 2 and season 3. So you really have to be patient with this series, is basically what the writers are telling you.
Right. And I wouldn't want it any other way.
No, absolutely.
As long as we get to see those other seasons.
Right. If they never happen, I am going to be super duper crushed.
Yeah.
Okay, so
we go back to Donna and Boyd.
And he explains everything that happened earlier.
Yeah, no, she's got in the mailbox stat back up at this point, and she tells Boyd, yeah, the last thing you need is Cautry haunting you.
Right.
He's like, yeah, too late for that.
Right.
Which is a really funny way of admitting to her that he's been seeing Cautry.
Right. He says he saw his wife, and Donna asks, how'd she look?
Yeah.
And of course, Boyd just completely ignores this question. Boyd says there's got to be rules. He said he did this. He brought this thing back with him. And Donna says, yep, you sure did. But you know what else you also did? You gave a lot of people extra time. You gave me more time. Yeah.
So, him saying there's got to be rules, and then he said something you can hold in his hands, which, we obviously see that is the answer, the direct answer. But the whole there's got to be rules things makes me think about the rhyme itself. And I've seen people ask, well, if this entity wants to kill you, why is it telling you how to stop it, right? With this rhyme. And,
well, you're assuming the entity is the one who's informing you of this in the first place.
Right, it could be two totally opposite forces, but in fairy tales, which we're leaning towards fairy tales a lot,
yes.
Right?
The episode's title
right, Once Upon a Time. And it makes me think of the TV show Once Upon a Time, which is just based on actual fairy tales. And here's what happens in that show as well as in general fairy tales is the villain who sets a curse, there has to be a way to break the curse. There's rules to the game. They're not allowed to cast a curse that just ends it, right? There always has to be a loophole where the hero can solve a riddle and figure out how to fix things and how to end the curse.
Right.
And like in Once Upon a Time, the show, Rumpelstiltskin does this a lot. In the actual Rumpelstiltskin story too, he'll provide riddles. And be like, if you can solve my riddle, then you'll break the curse. And, very arrogantly thinking no one's going to be able to figure it out. But it's one of the rules. And that's something they specifically talk about a lot in the Once Upon a Time TV show is the way these rules work in fairy tales. Like, they break that down in that show. And I do think that's what's happening here is there are rules. Whatever these forces are, they're not allowed to just take you and kill you. They do have rules they have to follow.
Right.
And they do have to give you an out. You just got to figure out what it is. And I just think that this whole thing is really leaning towards fairy tales.
Okay.
Adam said, he thinks maybe this does mean that From literally is just a Once Upon a Time realm.
Okay.
So in the show Once Upon a Time, we learn there's all these different realms.
Yes.
It's just outside of, what's the word? When something's in the story. Oh my goodness. What am I trying to say?
I actually don't know. It's when something is outside of the narrative? So that wasn't the right track, no?
Canon.
Canon, okay.
It's just outside of canon.
Okay.
That, a lot of fans think that the Lost Island is just another realm in the Once Upon a Time universe.
Mm-hmm.
And Adam was saying, well, From feels like it could just be another realm as well.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think they're literally ever going to tell us that, but
It'd be funny
does
if they did.
feel like that makes sense.
Okay.
Where we're just dealing with a different world that's got just a little bit different mechanics on how it works.
Right.
And, there's a way to travel between these different worlds. And we've left the real world and gone into this world through, the fallen tree or whatever.
And boy, what a world to visit, that's for sure. She tells him that his son is about to get married. Not officially, of course, because it's not like they have a priest. And wow, that's kind of a low blow from Donna. They are making the most of what time they have. And Boyd should do the same. Donna tells him to come back to Colony House. And Boyd's like, I'm not giving up. And Donna starts laughing. I'm not telling you to give up. We may only have like a few hours left.
Yeah.
Stop being a damn martyr and come watch your son get married.
Right.
The apocalypse will still be there.
She says the end of the world will still be here when the ceremony's done.
This scene is great. I love this scene. Now, we have two different philosophies here. From one, Donna. Donna has always been about making a home here, whereas Boyd has always been about getting out.
Right.
And he's come to the point where he's totally obsessed with the problem at hand and not taking the time to smell the roses, which you have to do. There's life going on around you. You have to peek up and look around and enjoy some of it, because otherwise, what's the point?
Right.
And that's basically more or less what Donna is saying here. She's very good at calling him on his shit, basically. Yeah. And that's why I love this relationship.
And you know what I was reminded of here is the first time, we met these characters is Boyd went to Colony House to ask Ellis to come to a funeral that he wasn't going to go to.
Right.
And now Donna's here begging Boyd to come to the wedding. And it's almost like a reflection on this relationship that Boyd and Ellis had. Remember, until like a few days ago, they had no relationship at all. They hadn't talked in like a year.
Right.
And, Boyd was watching him through binoculars to make sure he got in safe at night. And now they have this relationship. And if he doesn't go to the ceremony, like, even, what do we if we do live?
Right.
You're not going to be able to come back from that. And
well, I mean, at this point, he's going to be a grandfather. His son is going to have a kid.
Right.
And he's getting married. And you're just
not there for it.
Right. And you have to be. Like, you have to get your head out of your ass. Yes, there's all this stuff going on. And even if you were in the real world, there would be stuff going on.
Right.
And you still got to do these things.
Right.
They are important. Jade in the caves. He's in some kind of dome area in the cave, and the ghastly children arrive saying, "Angui, Angui." They are arranged on stone slabs, seven of them, looking at the ceiling. And Jade sees the symbol in the ceiling of the cave. It's basically like, almost like a, like a window kind of deal.
Yeah, okay, so when he first gets to this chamber, he looks up, we see the roof, we can kind of see a circle, but the symbol's not there. It's overgrown. And then when he hears the kids, he looks down, the slabs all appear around him. So they're not physically there. They are in, similar to Martin's chamber, they're in a different plane of existence.
Right.
Okay, but he has this insight where he can see them, and that's when he looks up the second time, he can see what they're looking at. And this is where it's like an open circle, but the roots have formed over them to make the symbol. So we now know this is the symbol. The symbol is literally these kids' line of vision. It's what they can see while they're tied down to these slabs, and they have been projecting the only thing they can see to Jade and to Christopher in the past.
Right.
And, those two were chosen to be the ones that they're projecting this image to. And so now we know where the symbol came from. That's what the symbol is.
Yeah.
The symbol is that circle above these kids. And there's only one thing this can make me think of.
And what would that be?
That would be the ring.
The Ring. Okay. You did bring that up on Twitter.
Okay. So are you familiar with that movie?
I am.
Okay. So it's been a long time since I've seen it, but It's basically the same concept where the image of it's like the circle
the image of the
image
well.
that we keep seeing, we find out it's the well. And it's literally the characters. This is the last thing she saw before she died. And that's what this image is. So just briefly, in the ring, we've got Samara.
Yeah.
Who also, I might add, is wearing a dirty white nightgown, just like these kids. She had psychic abilities, kind of like Walt in Lost.
Okay.
Okay. And she was put in this well by her stepmom because, like, they couldn't control her. She was doing scary shit. The mom snapped and killed her, basically.
Right.
So they put her in this well. She survived for 7 days living in this well, looking at that circle. And that was the only thing she could see was this circle of light around the well. And also, I might add, there was a lighthouse in that story.
Yes.
And voices telling someone to kill a child.
Right.
So we got a lot of connecting tissue here. But the ring is the same as the symbol here, right? It was the child's, it was what they could see. And then they passed that image on to whoever they could pass it on to psychically.
Okay.
And
does that maybe give hope that perhaps Jade isn't destined to just go around killing everybody?
I mean, we didn't get back to that. We don't really know what happened with Christopher.
Yeah. And actually, this is the last time we'll see Jade for this season, too. And we don't. I'm not even sure where that leaves his character, honestly.
But we know that the kids are talking to Christopher and Jade, like, through this vision. And I feel like they're calling on him to save him.
Right.
You know, they may have been physically showing themselves to Tabitha, saying Ankui or whatever, but Jade and Christopher are the ones who got this vision. They're seeing through the eyes of the children. They want his help.
So why also appear to Tabitha then?
I don't know.
Is it just because she was in the tunnels and that's why they started showing?
Right. We had that whole thing where she saw one in the tunnels.
Yeah.
So maybe that was just them latching on to somebody, but they'd already picked Jade for whatever reason. He'd already been seeing the symbol previous to that. I don't know. Like this is something, right? This is something really important. Now, where are the kids? They're in this spot because that's what they're seeing. Like, the circle's still there, but the slabs aren't here anymore.
Well, maybe it's like we'll get to that in later, but maybe it's just like what happens with Boyd later.
Right. They're in this different plane of existence where, you know, the thing's not, where it looks like the past. I mean, you can say that about, you know, the whole Martin chamber too, where the ruins compared to the Dice chamber looks like they're two different time periods.
Right.
Where in this other plane of existence, these places haven't aged and deteriorated or whatever. But the kids aren't in the lighthouse, that means.
Right.
If they're in the caves near the town.
Well, they were at some point.
But if they're still seeing that symbol, is that where they are?
Right.
Wherever they are?
Yeah. And maybe they're there either in a different realm, as you said, like a different dimension, but the same spot, or a different time frame, as we were just discussing. Yeah.
But I don't know. It's important.
Yes.
And so Tabitha's going to save the kids, but we're getting a different perspective on what's going on with the kids here.
Right.
And also, I'll note that those 7 slabs aren't even there in Jade's present where he's standing.
Right.
Not only are the kids gone, the slabs are gone too. And are they the same stones that we see out in Khatri's field?
Interesting.
Remember where he, buried his bag? And I think there were 7. I didn't go back and look, but somebody said they thought there were 7.
Maybe Sarah is also in communication with those children.
But you know, the stones that are out in the field in a circle.
Well, I mean, they specifically, Sarah at one point mentioned to Khatri, they saw you, like, bury that bag. So I'm wondering if the kids saw Khatri do that, and those were the kids that were communicating with Sarah.
And the kids are the ones giving all of this stuff to Sarah?
And maybe not all of it. Like I said, I think there's different forces at work.
Well, we know Sarah's talked to the boy in white as well.
I think everything might be talking to Sarah.
I mean, everything's connected.
Right.
And just as, Jade's continued to tell us, we just don't know how it's connected.
I think there's just different factions. Like, yes, there's the ghastly children who are communicating to Sarah because they can. There's the boy in white. And there's the evil force that wants to do harm to everybody. Yeah. So I think there's definitely different forces at work there.
And is the it the same thing that trapped these children.
Maybe. So yeah, the children disappear.
Yeah, so he looks back down, everything's gone, he's back in his own dimension,
right,
or whatever we want to call it. And he looks up again and sees again the overgrown circle, where the symbol's not quite visible anymore, but you can tell like it used to be.
Right. So we cut to Victor, who's escorting Tabitha to the faraway tree. And at first,
just
one more.
Sorry, didn't mean
not
to interrupt you, but just like you said before, we don't see Jade again.
Yeah.
So he's still in the caves. Wherever we're picking up season 3, he's in those caves, presumably with the monsters.
Yeah.
Jade could be in a lot of trouble.
I mean, presuming that he sticks here, like, and that we come back immediately after, like, when the events of this episode ended.
But we haven't seen him escape the danger of the situation that he's put himself in.
All right, so Victor escorting Tabitha to the faraway tree.
They're looking for the bottle tree specifically.
The bottle tree. They can't find it. And I'm thinking maybe this is because the trees have moved.
And Victor says as much. He's like, the trees, that wasn't there. Like, things are just a little off. And this is where what you said earlier comes into play.
Yeah.
Like, when Boyd and Sarah found the bottle tree,
yes,
it was after, like, 2 days of walking.
And they managed to do it, in a couple hours
at
best.
They walked to the Talisman Cave, which they had left late in the afternoon, so that wasn't a full day.
Okay.
But they spent the night there. And then the next day they walked all day and got to the bottle tree.
Right.
So, is it just because they were walking in random directions and had no idea of where they were trying to go?
I mean, they could have been walking in circles.
Right, and Victor knew where to go.
Right.
But yeah, that felt notable, that this bottle tree seemed really easy to get to. As far as, like, distance.
So they end up finding the tree, and he describes what the trees do. He says that they'll take you to random locations, but he says that this tree is special.
This tree's special because it takes you to the tower. And we're not saying lighthouse still. We're still calling it a tower. And I don't know, how does he know that? He says his mom told him.
Right.
How does she know that?
Right.
Like, there's more to this story.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, somebody told her this.
Right.
Like, where is this coming from? And is that why the bottles are in the tree? That it was marked as being this special location?
And Victor ends up giving Tabitha his lunchbox and says, I prepared some snacks for you for your journey. He gives up his lunchbox that he carries around with him everywhere. And that's an amazing act of love right there.
It was beautiful because, I mean, we talked about how much Victor's grown and how brave he's being, but for him to part with his lunchbox, like, that's crazy.
For all he knows, he's not going to see Tabitha again. And he's not going to see that lunchbox
Which is
again.
why he's giving it to her.
Right.
Like, this isn't him saying, here's some snack, which is what he's saying out loud. This is him saying, I want to give you the thing that's most important to me because you're so important to me. And they have this bond, and he trusts her like he hasn't trusted anybody since his mother. And it's beautiful.
Absolutely. And it ties back to all the way back to the season premiere with the two of them in the caves together. The scenes that the fandom, some of them anyway, didn't like. Yeah. But that was a building block to this.
It was the start of their relationship, which is really important. Another thing he told us in this scene, which is significant, is that he's staring at the spot on the ground, and he says, that's where I found her. I found my mother's body right there.
Oh, he did say that.
You missed that?
I did miss that.
Okay, so he stares to the ground and he says, I found my mother's body right there. She didn't make it through the tree.
Oh, okay. Well, that adds to what I'm going to say later.
It adds a whole level of what I was talking about earlier of they're giving us a fact. They're telling us Miranda died. Fact, point blank.
But I'm actually I'm not sure. That's part of one of my theories that I was going to bring up is like I'm not sure. Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah,
but
I know where you're going with it because there's a question about it.
Right.
But this is in Victor's mind. His mother's dead. He found her body and buried her. Notable that he doesn't mention anything about Eloise. So presumably she made it through the tree if Tabitha didn't, or if Miranda didn't,
or Eloise got stopped before getting to this point.
True. Like, anything's possible still.
Right.
But yeah, he told us he found his mother's body right there, which adds to how brave he's being. that he's like, yeah, that's where I found my mom.
Right.
Like, for him to come here,
Yeah.
when before he wouldn't even have conversations about this stuff.
Yeah.
Oh,
This is an amazing, amazing level of growth here
Yeah.
on the part of Victor. And like this scene it's very low key, but a lot is communicated within it. So much so that I missed that thing about the body.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah.
and in the lunchbox, I want to know what's wrapped in that drawing. So right in the middle of the lunchbox, there's like one of his drawings,
Mhm.
and it's wrapped up in twine, like it's holding something. I want to know what's in there. I don't think it's a snack. I
No?
think there's some important stuff in there for her to find out later. And the drawing, somebody actually identified which drawing it was. It's the drawing he made of Julie.
Oh.
Remember when he first met Julie? He
Yeah.
was drawing her while she was asleep.
Mhm.
So that's the drawing. It's a sleeping Julie. So is that particularly like, oh, remember your daughter? Remember why you're doing this?
Right.
And there's also an egg in there,
Mhm.
which, I don't want to keep bringing up all the negativity, but I literally saw someone say, how did he get an egg? That's unrealistic.
I mean, you've already had that conversation.
If you don't know about the eggs,
Right. You know, there's chickens, they lay eggs.
like the chickens have been mentioned, I don't know, a dozen times.
Right.
We've seen the chicken traps.
Mhm.
They eat eggs at the diner every freaking day.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway.
So Tabitha thanks him for the lunchbox and asks.
they have this hug.
Right.
It's a beautiful moment.
He asks if it hurts to go through. And
She asked.
She asked, right? And Victor says no.
It's like walking through a door.
And then Tabitha goes through, and Victor looks sad and wistful.
Yeah, she told him, she's like, go back to town. But he kind of lingered, waited for her to leave. And I'm wondering if he's gonna just go back to town. He almost looked like he's contemplating following her or
Right.
doing some other action. I don't know.
Yeah. So we have Fatima and Ellis preparing to get married. And all throughout the scene, I expected Reggie to come in with a shotgun, shooting Fatima dead. And
Absolutely. But before we dig into that, I just wanted to say that they do show her stepping out after she went through the tree.
Yes.
And she's right at the base of the lighthouse.
Mhm.
She looks up and sees the lighthouse.
Yeah. So just right there.
That was such a much easier journey than what Boyd and Sarah did. You know, being dragged through the forest all night,
Yeah.
going through the spider kingdom.
Right. I don't think they ever arrived at the tower specifically.
No, but they
saw
did
it.
all that just to
Yeah.
see it in the distance.
Right.
So yeah, she had a much easier trip overall. Okay, so yeah.
Fatima and Ellis preparing to get married.
Yeah.
All throughout, like I said, I expected Reggie to come in with a shotgun, blowing them away.
Right. The first time watching this, like, I didn't hear anything
Right.
because I'm expecting everybody to get shot at any
Right.
second.
They are debating going to get Boyd, but Boyd ends up showing
He
up.
shows up just in time.
Fatima wants Boyd to walk her down the aisle, such as it is. And he says to her, "You don't need to call me Sheriff Stevens anymore." The implication is that they're now family.
Right.
Boyd walks her to Ellis, and Fatima gives her vows. Okay, did you write their vows down?
I mean, not word for word.
Okay,
But
well-
I got the gist of it.
Okay, so... I'll let
Okay,
you
so
do that.
Fatima, she talks about her father, and he said that life is a journey through the unknown, and though your eyes or mind may sometimes deceive you, your heart will never lie. Which I think that's an important line of dialogue. Your heart and your eyes or your mind may deceive you. So that makes me think we can't believe everything we're seeing.
Well, I've thought that throughout.
Right. I mean,
throughout
of
the season,
course. But for them to say it like that, I
Mhm.
feel like they're giving us a big clue.
Yeah.
Like, don't trust everything you see.
Mhm.
It's not all going to be real.
Yeah, but we should have just skipped these scenes and not watched them
Ugh.
because they're so unimportant.
Yeah. That's what I told you about that earlier, and I tweeted about it, but somebody literally made a whole thread saying, why was this scene here? It was so unimportant. I skipped it. And like so many people were like, yeah, I skipped it too. It was boring. We don't need to see a wedding. Like, this dialogue's important.
Right.
There's stuff here.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, these are the same people who are going to then say, oh, we didn't get any answers.
Right.
You're not even listening to the dialogue. What the heck? Okay, so she gives him a ring that she made for him. And we never see him give her a ring. Wasn't he supposed to make her a better ring after that wire catastrophe?
I thought so.
We never got back to that.
Yeah.
So, but she made him a beautiful ring. And then he reads his vows. And he reminisces again about the first day he saw her getting out of the car. The same stuff he talked about, when he first proposed to her in episode, was that 8 or 9, whatever, somewhere around there. He says there's so many times here that he's felt like he was stumbling. Okay, I don't know what I wrote. Stumbling in the dark. My notes say...
Actually, okay. So
my notes say sun bling in the day.
He says there were plenty of times he felt he was stumbling in the dark.
Stumbling in the dark is what that's supposed to say.
And every time she was his light in dark places.
She was his light guiding him through. She was his light in dark places. And Reggie didn't crash the wedding.
No.
They
actually... Nothing bad happened here.
Nothing bad happened.
They got married. And this is the conclusion for them for the season.
Yeah.
This was a happy ending.
They had a happy ending in this episode.
Yeah, in this episode, this season. Future, who knows? But, I expected horrible things to happen all throughout. So I was like, yeah.
So, Ellis's vows gave Boyd his second epiphany of the episode.
He's off in his own place as they kiss.
Yeah. So the first time was, Jade talking about puzzle pieces fitting together. This time, the light in dark places sparked something for me. And at first, I didn't follow him. I didn't know where he was going with this. But he gave us another, I gotta go.
The final I gotta go of the season. I laughed hysterically. I laughed really hard at the when Boyd said that, because I gotta go has basically become the do you want some tea?
Yeah. We haven't mentioned tea in a couple episodes.
I know, I was disappointed. I wanted one last do you want some tea reference, but we did not get it. Yeah. We can't get everything. We got a lot. We did not get that.
You know what else we didn't get in the last few episodes is any new songs. Mm-hmm. Like jukebox songs.
Right.
I made that playlist of all the music in the series, and I don't think I've added to it in 4 episodes.
Oh, another thing we didn't get? We didn't get any further explanation as to what Elgin's dream was.
Right. We had thought he was going to give us more. He didn't.
The nursery rhyme was it. That was what he was supposed to remember. That was kind of underwhelming.
What about the Brundles?
Right. That never came into play. I mean, maybe it will in the future.
Maybe.
So
yeah, he did his whole gotta go thing. He did manage to tell them both he loves them and give them a hug before leaving.
And so yeah, that's a happy ending for Ellis and Fatima this season. We cut to Jim and Ethan by Julie's bedside. Mm-hmm. And Ethan asks if they'll get to see Thomas again.
When they die.
Right. And Jim's caught off guard by this.
Yeah.
He asked, so he ends up, Ethan explains. Ethan is asking if they die, will they see Thomas again? And Jim says, yes. Grandpa too? Yes.
Yes, Grandpa being, I'm assuming he means Jim's dad, which is whose bootlaces the bracelet's made of. So I feel like this is foreshadowing involving the bracelet in some way. And I get a feeling that some episode in the future, it's going to be an episode about the bracelet and the origin of it and the disappearance of it.
Kind of like
talking about the grandpa.
Kind of like Jack's tattoo, where we explain that.
Yeah. And I feel like in that episode, this moment right here of Ethan saying, are we going to see Grandpa? Is going to be in the previously on.
Okay.
They're going to remind us that we brought up Grandpa here.
All right. So Ethan says, maybe it won't be so bad. Ethan gives Julie a second pillow. Yeah. And Jim helps.
And, it's, again, Ethan showing us just how mature he is. That he's able to be like, I'm going to come to terms with dying, you know?
Right.
My loved ones are going to be there.
Compare his attitude last episode to this one. He's in much better spirits.
Yeah.
It's an interesting contrast compared to his, snit that he had basically in the last episode.
Well, remember now, he saw what Julie's going through, and it made it all kind of real.
Right.
Sitting there watching your sister dealing with whatever the heck this is. And it's scary. And, he realizes, I already came to the conclusion it's not a game, but now, oh my goodness, we're dying.
Right.
And he's come to terms with it as this young child, and it's really beautiful.
There's, I think there's adults that wouldn't be able to handle, the situation and, the possibility of dying with as much grace as Ethan does in this scene. I'm not sure that I would be able to, honestly. All right, so we cut to Boyd, who's getting a torch, and he ends up encountering Reggie with a shotgun.
He's at the peach truck.
Yes, the peach truck.
So he left it there that night. So it was the night that he spent in the truck with Victor and Tabitha and Elgin. And, I figured out now what he was talking about, with the light. So he went to get the torch.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Reggie has... Now, how did Reggie find him?
Maybe the voices told him. I don't know. But yeah, it's like... Okay, so if there's a false note in the finale, I feel like it's this scene. I mean, on the one hand, Boyd is trying to be like, oh, I got this torch here.
Yeah.
I'm going to go fix this problem.
And Reggie didn't want to hear anything about the torch might fix things.
It's really funny. Boyd having this last moment of sounding insane for the season. But it just felt... I like the ideas behind it. I didn't really necessarily like the execution. So Reggie ends up shooting Boyd in the arm. And he's basically like, I always liked you, but now I'm going to kill you for no reason. I think you're responsible for killing my wife,
he thinks
basically.
That he blames him for bringing back the entity, which Boyd blames himself.
Right.
I mean, he's accepted that it's his fault.
Yeah. And Jim ends up shooting Reggie dead.
He shoots Reggie.
It just feels pointless.
I think it was kind of like, like I said earlier, they wanted us to fear something really horrific was going to happen. Like Reggie was going to go on a killing spree.
Right.
Like Christopher, like we assume, he did. And he doesn't. He's only going after Boyd. Boyd's in trouble, though. He has a gunshot wound.
Right.
So that is something to be concerned about going into next season.
Right. I did mention that on Twitter.
But yeah, Reggie, his story's done.
Right.
He did a really bad job at whatever he was trying to do.
Right. It feels like a real waste. I feel like we could have done more here.
So we got 2 named side characters, and they're both gone.
Right. No major characters, but 2 side characters. That's the moral of the
story is we lost both Reggie and Matthias.
All right, so Boyd goes to the ruins with the torch.
He's injured and
gunshot wounds. He lights the torch, and the tower appears with the music box.
Well, not the tower. The chamber.
Right. And I noticed that the sound mix is very different in this scene. It seems kind of more like surround sound. There's definitely an echo, especially in dialogue with Abby later, but we'll get to that in a moment. Tied up, we see Julie, Randall, and Mary. Now, they're also back at their respective houses.
So their bodies are in their beds with their eyes glassed over, yet their consciousness or whatever is here in this, again, for lack of better expression, say this other plane of existence here.
Right.
And it makes me wonder, is that what was happening with Martin too?
Right. Was he somewhere else?
Right. Was his body somewhere else still alive and just his consciousness was tied up here?
Until the moment he died.
Right.
So where was Martin at this point?
Right.
Where was his physical body?
I don't feel like they've wrapped up the story.
No.
But I also feel like they might not get back to this.
No. Yeah. So, he sees the 3 of them tied up, but he doesn't care about Randall. He doesn't really acknowledge Mary very much. He goes straight to Julie.
Yeah.
We talked about this all episode long, that nobody seems to care about anybody but Julie. And, that's where I'm at. That's the only person I care about. But at the same time, I was kind of curious, why does Boyd have that reason to care about Julie that much, that he goes straight to her to try to get her down? And I asked that question on Facebook. And most people were like, well, it's because she's a 16, 17-year-old girl, and this is him showing his paternal side. Do you have any alternate takes on that?
I mean, he had to pick one of them to go to.
Right.
Right? You had to start somewhere.
Right.
Maybe it was just a matter if she was the one most directly in front of him. And I didn't think of this till this moment. Was she in the position of the 3 where Martin had been?
I'm actually not sure.
Because remember, it was Martin and 2 corpses in the 3 shackles.
Right.
So maybe she's the one that was right where Martin was.
Okay.
Making her the more significant of the comparison.
Maybe.
But yeah, I don't know.
So, all right. He decides, all right, I'm going to destroy the music box. But Abby appears. Not Abby, I would say, because I do not believe for a second this was Abby.
Whatever we think's happening with Tom and Cautry, this is not Abby.
Right.
Spider Abby might have been Abby.
Right.
The Abby we met in 9 and 10 is not Abby. I 100% agree with you.
She says that destroying the box will only prolong their suffering. And Randall, Mary, and Julie end up screaming. And they end up screaming back at wherever they are at the same time. Abby is trying to convince him to just give up.
Yeah, she's
that-
like, let everybody die.
Right.
End their suffering.
That fear doesn't feed the forest. Hope does.
Now-
So just give up and die. That's super inspiring.
I mean, I might believe her that hope feeds the evil.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that does seem to track. Like, every time they're doing something hopeful, something bad happens.
Right.
But I also don't think that whoever is behind this Abby projection is trying to end suffering. They have their own agenda.
Right.
Which that is, they want the music box to keep playing. They want to take these bodies.
Mm-hmm.
They want to, it is whatever it is Abby.
Right. This
here.
is a distraction and a means to confuse Boyd. Nothing else.
Yeah.
And she ends up saying, if they don't die today, they'll just die tomorrow.
Yeah. And you know, another reason you can know it's not Abby? Because if it was Abby, she might still be like, let them die. But she'd be like, let them die because that's the way out.
Right.
Remember, that was Abby's thing.
Mhm.
Kill everybody because then they get to leave.
Right. Yeah.
So she wouldn't be saying, kill them and end their suffering.
Boyd doesn't listen. He destroys the music box, and Julie awakens in Jim's arms. And then we see Mary with Christy, and then Randall alone.
Wakes up
because
alone.
Nobody cares about
Nobody
Randall.
cares about Randall.
So I'm actually very interested next season to see exactly how these experiences have affected Randall. If he's going to be a changed man.
Yeah.
I don't expect him to not be an asshole. Like, he's still but there's got to be some
He's got to
growth.
believe it now.
Yeah. Mhm. Right.
He can no longer think it's just like a government experiment. Now, one thing noteworthy here is Boyd burns the music box and then, like, stomps on it and crushes it to a million pieces. The music box was already burned.
Mhm.
Like, every time we've seen this music box, it's scorched already. The ballerina's leg is broken. And it made me wonder, like, the last time this happened in the cycle, like, and I don't know if it was, Martin and those other two people were the three in that instance. Was there a person in Boyd's shoes that was trying to stop the melody? Did they get close?
Right.
Did they set the music box on fire, but then they failed in the last second to destroy it?
Maybe.
I feel like, the last time it got so close.
Right.
But then they didn't stop it. Is this the same time everybody died? Like, was it not Christopher that killed everybody?
Right.
I don't know. Like, I feel like there's a lot to unpack here still. And a lot of people are saying, oh, well, Martin was never real. He was the entity. I don't think that's true. Like, there were 3 people chained up. I think it was the same thing.
Right.
That happened in a different instance of
I
this.
think Martin was Martin up into the moment that he gave Boyd the worms.
Up until the moment that the song stopped playing on the music box.
Right, exactly.
He said, you have to leave before the song stops, or they'll come. And then the worms came. And along with it, the entity took over Martin's body. I mean, that's how we interpreted it when that scene happened. And I kind of stick by that.
I do vaguely remember that.
That, I do think Martin was real and he was a prisoner, but this entity took him over at the end when he passed this curse on to Boyd. And I really kind of want to know, like, what happened back then? I want to see this whole transgression of what happened.
Hopefully when we get future scenes, we'll get that. So we have a lovely montage. Jim tells Ethan happily that his sister is okay.
Oh.
Mary hugs Christy, and Randall, of course, is getting up alone. Now, yes, I don't like the character of Randall. That has nothing to do with the performance of A.J. Simmons.
Oh, yeah. Amazing.
Yes, he's been really great this season. We've given his character a lot of crap, and so has a lot of fandom.
If you can pull off being a character that people hate, you did a good job.
Yeah, and he doesn't get a word of dialogue in the scene, but you get a little bit of feeling for Randall when you see him wake up and the way he looks, and there's some pathos there. Yeah. And the actor pulls it off without saying a word.
Speaking of A.J. Simmons.
Okay, let's hear.
Seeing him in that Instagram Live, I didn't realize he was a British actor.
No?
His accent threw me for a loop.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'm always impressed at these actors that have, this strong British accent that pull off playing, North American characters that have, our Western accents.
Like Hugh Laurie, who played House.
There's so many of them.
Yeah.
And it boggles my mind every time. Like 3/4 of the Walking Dead universe cast is, British or Australian or all of these places that have like really strong accents to us, and they're able to cover them so beautifully, and it always impresses me. Because I don't think I could pull off any of their accents.
No, I'm pretty sure not. Not a very convincing one.
Right.
Anyway. Maybe a very fake one, that's for sure. You know who would be able to do that? Carla Mack.
Probably.
Yeah, maybe we can get her to do that if we get her on the show. It's been 3 weeks. I haven't scared her off yet, so I think I'm pretty in the clear on that.
All right.
All right, so anyway, moving on.
So now that the three have woken up, they've disappeared from the chamber. Mm-hmm. They're back in their own bodies.
Yep, the tower is gone.
And yeah, Boyd's back at the ruins in his own plane of existence.
He calls into the force, "You don't break me. You fucking hear me. You don't fucking break me." And that's very inspiring and all that, but you have some bullet wounds in your shoulder.
Yeah,
maybe
he's
you should
a little
go,
broken.
Maybe you should go get treated by
who
Kristen.
shows up but Gus?
Yeah, is that a different dog?
It might be.
Because it did not look like the same dog.
I think it's supposed to be the same dog.
Okay, but it looked like a very different dog. It was like, I thought Gus was lighter and didn't have so much dark fur.
I mean, it could be different. There could be multiple dogs, but it's probably more likely just a different
dog. A recasted
dog.
dog?
You know,
okay.
A year later.
yeah, I got that.
So yeah, the dog, who I will forever call Gus, even if they didn't mean that to be his name, because of the whole closed captioning thing. His name's Gus now.
Yeah.
He appears, and it once again seems like he's about to lead Boyd somewhere.
Yeah.
So every time the dogs have come, they lead Boyd somewhere helpful, right? It's always been a positive interaction between Boyd and the dog.
Right.
Dogs, whichever it is.
Right.
Hopefully they're bringing him somewhere to get his gunshot taken care of.
Right. Next season opens up with Boyd dead somewhere because he bled out because he didn't get his gunshot.
Yeah.
Moves,
I mean, when he got shot, I was like, oh my God, are they going to kill him?
Right.
Like, he's the one person I thought was safe.
Yeah, and that was no, like, BB gun that he was shot with either.
No,
that's
like,
a pretty heavy-duty gun.
Like, he wasn't, like, shot in the heart, but you still, this is not a good situation. You're out in the middle of nowhere by yourself. You need to get back to town quick, but he's probably going to follow this dog.
Maybe the dog is leading him to someone who will help.
Maybe. I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
All right.
And that's the last we see of Boyd for the season.
That's a wrap on Boyd for the season. We cut to Jim, who's giving Julie water.
Yeah, and Julie's moved to the couch.
Right.
So they got her downstairs.
She looks pretty miserable. And she says, "I'm okay." And Jim is like, "I know you are, but just do this for me.
Drink some water."
Right.
It should have been tea.
Right. It should have been
tea. This was the moment.
Yep. Where was Mrs. Wu? We should have seen her for the last time this season, in this scene, giving somebody tea.
I think the last time we saw her was when they brought the food back from the diner.
Yeah, way back. Way back in the beginning of the episode. Ethan opens the door.
Ethan very randomly opens the door.
Right.
He had his own epiphany. He opens the door and
the buzzing is gone.
Buzzing's gone. The cicadas are gone. It's over?
Yes, maybe? Question mark? Question mark?
It's changed.
Mark? Yep.
For better or worse, we're not sure yet.
Right.
They sure seem to think that there's, a new calm. Things are going to go back to the status quo, but...
I mean, after the last couple of episodes, I would take the status quo.
Yeah, right.
It's really not so bad. You just don't go out at night.
Yeah.
Don't be dumb.
But, or maybe, something worse happened, because where are the monsters?
Right.
Where have they been? They weren't in the caves.
Right.
Maybe those silver bullets made them stronger.
Maybe they're on strike like the writers.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be.
And
Julie.
Yes, she ends up asking about her mom, and Jim.
Where's mom at?
Yeah. Jim just gives this really slightly terrified look.
Because I think he almost forgot dealing with everything happening with Julie. Like, oh yeah, she went to go save the children in the magic tower that's going to get us home?
Yes, maybe. So Tabitha is climbing the steps.
And it looks the same as it did in her dreams. The same toys are on the stairs.
Yes.
Absent this time is the glass bottle. She's already been to the bottle tree.
Right. We hear one of the ghastly children. We don't see him, but it says Angui.
We hear the Angui. And we also, no hanging husband this time.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, I remember in her dreams, Jim was hanging upside down in the tower.
Right.
At the window. She passes the window. No one's hanging there, but that rope is present through the whole scene.
She gets to the top, and she's at the top with the glass, the little glass
and she passes these gears that are clinking. Yep. She still has Victor's lunchbox. She's trudging it along with her, which actually seemed like super in the way.
Yeah, thanks for that, Victor. Just kidding. She sees the boy in white, who apologizes and says, "This is the only way," before pushing her.
Yeah, he says, "I'm sorry, I really am. This is the only way."
the defenestration of Tabitha. She goes out the window.
Through the lighthouse window from like a million stories up.
At least the boy in white was polite about it.
And we got this view. We didn't take a full 360, but we went at least halfway around the lighthouse with the view. There's no water in sight.
Right.
This is a landlocked lighthouse.
Right. Maybe there was water at one point. Who knows? So she wakes in the hospital room, and she disconnects some sensors. She gets up. She tries to go for the window. A doctor and a nurse appear. That explains their credits. So
the nurse was there as soon as she woke up, saw that she was awake, and was like, I'll be right back. He went to get the doctor. And, yeah, she's trying to get her bearings. And she's hooked to an IV, an actual IV in a bag, not a glass jar like Krista uses. She's walking towards the window. The doctor comes. We see the computer terminal. It says St. Anthony's Hospital.
Yes. Speaking of which, that brings back the fact that Russell brought up St. Anthony at the beginning of this. And Mia Daniel on Twitter said that St. Anthony is the saint who finds lost things.
Yeah.
And she found that significant.
St. Anthony is the patron saint of lost things and lost people. And that's definitely significant.
Right. So it's explained to her that they found her somewhere, like in the forest, I think.
Yeah, Dr. Brody says 3 days ago.
Right.
A pair of hikers found her in the woods, unconscious on the side of a trail.
She goes to the window. She opens it up, and it's definitely not Frumville. Now, Russell also pointed out to me a picture. One of the pictures was of a view that looked very similar, though not the same, as what Tabitha sees here. And yeah, so she realizes that, oh crap, I left my family
She said
behind.
no several times. And the doctor's like, do you remember? Like, why were you out there? And she's, of course, not, like, caring about that conversation. And we can see we're up very high. This hospital's really tall, which doesn't seem very realistic to me.
No.
And we're looking down at this view, and it's a full town.
Right.
Now, to me, it looks like a quaint New England town. There's a church with a steeple.
Someone said it was actually Maine. Like, they recognized the area.
Yeah, that, you know, the image is from, I forget what town in Maine, but, like, people called it out specifically. I think that could be just as much as that's the establishing shot they used for this.
Right.
I mean...
They also mentioned that Tabitha's reflection looked different. I looked into it. I didn't see that.
So yeah, I have that in my whole like theories.
Okay, we'll
section.
get back to that.
I mean, we're right there basically, but
yeah, that's basically where the season ends.
That's the end. It's her looking out the window.
So,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, I have 3 different theories about what's going on with her, and I'm sure there's some crisscrossing.
Yeah, there's theories, and I don't have necessarily like fully thought out theories. I just have different kind of thoughts that kind of go with different theories.
All right, so 1, this is a hallucination. She's still in Frumville, probably unconscious on the ground.
Okay, yep, that's 1. People have said that. It's just a dream. She fell out, and she's at the bottom of the lighthouse. She didn't die. She's just like in pretty critical condition, and she's just kind of hang out there and need help.
Theory number 2. This is another layer of the simulation. She's graduated to the next level, basically.
I think that's where my mind's at.
Right.
That's my lean towards that. Now, I don't think anything... I haven't ruled anything out at this point, but that's really kind of where my mind is we're on the second level. Specific to that, if you look... if you're... You know, I did a real, like... stop and pause a million times during this scene to try and like see everything in the room, every view we have. You can see the sign in the hallway, and I actually have a clearer shot of that sign that was Simon Webster had shared on his Instagram, some behind the scenes shots, and it was actually him and Hannah hanging out in the waiting room.
Yes, I saw that.
And there's a really clear shot of the whole sign. We only get to see part of the sign in the shot. We see the whole sign there. The sign says level 2.
Oh, really?
It says level 2, and then it lists like this direction to the cafeteria, this direction to the bathroom, and it's got all these arrows. Okay, level 2. It seems like a normal hospital sign. If you're on the second floor of a hospital.
Which they are definitely not.
Which they're definitely not.
Unless they're numbering it weirdly and doing it in reverse.
Like that view is not the second floor.
Yeah, no.
But the sign says level 2. Now, her room number is 2225. So the 22nd floor? Like if it was a hotel, that's how it would be numbered.
Right.
Although, have you ever heard of a hospital that has 25 floors? That seems excessive.
Yeah.
So all of this seems just a little
Weird?
peculiar.
Yeah.
And for the sign to say second level.
Mm.
And then it lists everything you'd expect to be in a hospital.
Right.
Like the gift shop, the cafeteria, x-rays, emergency.
Mm.
These things all wouldn't be on the same sign.
Mm.
Or they would have different levels next to them telling you what floor to go on. They wouldn't just be with an arrow left or right.
Mm.
On the second level, what appears to be the 22nd floor.
Right.
So it's not adding up.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't feel like they just do lazy set dressings here.
No, I don't
It feels
think so.
significant.
Yeah.
And for the sign to say level 2.
Yeah, that fits along with the simulation.
It fits the
next
simulation video game theory.
Level. Yeah.
It fits with what Martin said about, I used to think the town was the worst part. Has she just graduated into the next thing?
Quite possibly.
And it doesn't necessarily, like, it fits best with the simulation and game theories, but really it could work with any of the theories, that this is just another layer of Fromville. Purgatory theory.
Yeah.
You could be, this is your next test you have to pass. Even like the alien and different planet or whatever theories could be like you've moved to the next version of it.
I've seen a lot of fans say they don't want it to be purgatory because that would fit with Lost, which is just not what Lost was until the last scene.
Yeah.
The sideways scenes were kind of like a in-between universe, but the rest of the series was not purgatory.
Yeah, and they were not dead the whole time.
Right.
Which now
yes.
you understand.
Yes, I get it now. I see the error of people's ways. Not mine, because I didn't watch the series to have that theory. So the last theory I have is she's actually in the real world.
Right, which, of course, that's a theory we have to look at.
And it's funny because, okay, I'll bring up Jade Appleby now. Or not David Appleby, who plays Jade.
David Alpay.
Alpay, sorry.
Pretty sure that's how it's pronounced.
Who was talking to Scott McCourt and Fatima. And he said, she was like, oh, well, she woke up in the real world. And Jade was like, David was like, and he has to be a good guy because he has the same name as me. But he was like, yeah, but do we really know that? And Fatima got this reaction.
Pega seemed like she had to consider that. Now, here's something to remember.
Mm.
We now know everything the cast knows.
Right.
Other than, a couple people might have a tidbit based on something that's supposed to happen with their character, for contract negotiations or whatever, but they don't know the story.
Yeah.
Now, they were ahead of us before because they'd already filmed season 2.
Right.
Now that we've seen everything they filmed,
right,
they know what we know for the most part. And some people are getting really confused with that. I've seen people referring to things that were mentioned in that Instagram Live and be like, yeah, they gave us these spoilers, about, they're going to find Eloise. Well, no, that was just somebody's theory.
Right.
They're theorizing the same way we are. They don't have any more inside information. We're all caught up on the same page now.
Now, bringing this back a moment.
We're on the same page, just like Jade and Tom.
You mentioned earlier, something I totally missed, that Victor ended up finding his mother dead.
Yes.
Now, I think they're going to find, regardless, and I think that I think I dismiss the first one, that it's just a hallucination. I think it's more like one.
That would be, I think, a lazy answer.
Yeah, 2 or 3. And I think actually 3 is the least likely, so I think I'm actually leaning towards 2. But either way, I think they're going to find Tabitha's body, and it is going to be dead, because it's just a host. It's not actually her body. That her consciousness has moved on, but they're going to end up finding her body dead in Fromville.
Okay, and that's definitely a possibility, and it's something that's going to give us some answers, right? If they do find her or not.
Right.
And like you said, that could tell us, did Miranda really die before she made it to the tree, or did she go through the same thing?
So I'm thinking that Miranda is either going to be on this level with Tabitha, or even advance more than that. Like maybe she's even further into the simulation than Tabitha currently is.
So now you're back on the simulation.
Yeah. I mean, well, yeah, I think it's either real world. If she's in the real world, then I think that Victor's mom is going to be there, and she can run into her.
Okay. Well, see, so in this, again, is very circular discussion.
Right.
It's hard to separate all of these different thoughts from each other, because they're all kind of dependent on how each other work out. But, remember Abby's theory of everyone who dies gets out.
Right.
So if we're in the real world, everybody who's died could be there if
Right.
you believe Abby.
Right.
Or is it only people who went through the lighthouse? In which case, it could be Miranda or Eloise
Right.
who made it out,
Mm-hmm.
depending on which of them actually made it through. The one whose body was found or the one whose body wasn't found.
Right. Okay.
So is Eloise going to be here? A lot of people seem to think that that's where we're headed.
I think it's going to be one or the other, or both.
Or both.
Honestly.
I'm still leaning towards some of those other theories. I don't think Tabitha's Eloise anymore, but I do think it could be Abby. I remember that was one of my theories, was Abby is Eloise.
Okay.
And this theory works if she's out.
If it's the real world.
If everyone who dies gets out and is back in the real world, which
Okay.
means like coma theory.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If that's the case, Abby could be Eloise. Eloise got out, grew up to become Abby.
Yeah.
And that's why Abby said, I'm remembering this dream I had as a little girl.
The reason I have cause to doubt that this is the real world is because of everything you just discussed.
Right. There's a lot of
Like-
reasons to think it might not
Like
be the real world.
You said that a lot of the details don't add up in
They
the
don't.
hospital.
But, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's some weird hospital that has 22 floors and calls it level 2. I mean, I don't know.
Right. But yeah, I mean, that's cause to doubt that. But yeah, a lot of stuff this could possibly be.
Okay, so Tabitha's body at the tree, we discussed that. Could she be out in the real world? But is she in a different time than
Different
when
time.
she left?
Okay, different time period.
Different time. Adam was really stuck on looking at that computer monitor, and he was pretty confident that that is an older operating system that would not be used today. He said it looked more like something you'd see 20 years ago,
Okay,
around the time Tabitha lost the bracelet. Or
right.
Jim lost the bracelet. And he thinks that we're in that time period.
Maybe.
I mean, that's possible. Are they in a real world, but a different reality from her own?
Mhm.
Not where she came from, but we're in a whole new environment now that is real world, but not your real world.
Right.
Like maybe you don't, do you exist in this world?
Mm-hmm.
Are you, okay, not are you Tabitha, because that's the whole other conversation, but is Tabitha Matthews and her family missing in this? Like, this is a real world in this discussion, but is it the one you went missing from?
Okay.
All of these other, I was about to say passengers, all of these other residents, are they people who existed in this realm? You know, and that's the first thing I would expect her to do is start, I mean, if she gets out and it is a real world, is she's going to look up all these people, right?
Right.
And try and figure out some clues.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to see, are the people who died alive again? Like, was Abby right?
Now, Russell said something interesting, that Tabitha is actually the most logical story-wise to get out, because she would be the most motivated to get back in. And I think that's very true. She would want to go back and try to get her family,
Right.
which would kind of put this in the realm of Lost again. Because, you know, like getting back to the island,
Right.
like, whereas, like, Jack and Co. eventually went back to the island after leaving the island.
Yeah, the Oceanic 6.
Right. So that would put that in Lost territory. But if she gets back, what's to stop her from saying, hey guys, here's the exit, let's all go?
Right.
So,
But again, how did she get here? Even if this is the real world, is it everybody who dies, like Abby thought? Does it literally have to do with the lighthouse? Does it literally have to do with the boy in white choosing you to be the one to go?
maybe.
Some people have said maybe there's a literal portal in the sky that she had to fall through.
Yes. And that's maybe why she landed in the forest. Like, she went through the portal and ended up here. So, if you have to die, do you have to die here, or you just have to die, period?
Right.
And if that's the case, why do you need to go to the lighthouse to die when you could just die anywhere?
Right. Other than the fact that if you don't know that, you're not going to sacrifice yourself and die.
Right.
Unless you're Abby.
Mm-hmm.
And I have my crazy theory still. You covered all of this stuff up here that I have.
Okay.
I have my super crazy theory, but it was all inspired by Kenny's sweater story.
Okay. Buckle in, people. We got another half hour of this theory to go, and then
And it's kind of this, you know, on point with that whole second level. They're still in Fromville.
Yeah.
But maybe they're in Fromville's future.
Okay.
So that this town literally is the town,
Mm-hmm.
but in an advanced civilization from where we are.
I see. So they built up the town.
They
to
built
be
up the
what
town.
It is now.
It's now its own modern society.
Mm-hmm.
The residents here are all descendants of those that we know.
Okay.
And others, who have come along the way, who are still being pulled in. But if we look out and we see, this is the same view.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was here. Maybe this hospital even is where the lighthouse was. I mean, I don't know. But Christy and Marielle...
Actually, that makes sense because, like, the height would suggest the lighthouse.
Christy and Marielle might be listed somewhere as the founders of this hospital. And again, this is all going back to Kenny being like, well, maybe we don't get out, but maybe we're important to future people who are here in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they are the founders of this community.
Gotcha.
There's no way out, but we built our own world here.
Huh. Well, that's interesting.
And the boy in white led Tabitha here for whatever reason.
Okay.
To maybe even to learn about this and somehow get the message back so they know their purpose.
So are they still dealing with the monsters at night? Do they still have to
I don't know. It seems like they're really together. They have a functioning hospital.
They would have to build a lot more talismans to,
yeah, maybe they found a way to manufacture them.
Ah, okay.
And I don't know. This all came to me thinking about that whole sweater, important to people in the future thing. That just felt like a significant thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also remember on one of those featurettes that they air, those little clips that MGM puts out, and I forget who it was being interviewed. Somebody, I don't even know if it was an actor or one of the creators, but they were being interviewed and they said, we don't know. Are we at the beginning of the story, the middle of the story, or the end of the story?
Right.
So, are you just the history of this new story?
That's interesting.
And that makes me bring up, people were asking about the title Once Upon a Time. My take is, well, Once Upon a Time is how you start a story, not end a story. So this is the beginning of a new story, Tabitha's story.
Perhaps.
What's going to happen here? I don't know. And also that whole thing I just said just really reminds me of one of my favorite plot points from Stargate Universe.
Okay.
I don't know if you watched that one.
I did not, but I know about it.
So one of the things that happens with them is they end up duplicating themselves at some point early in the series. The whole ship ends up duplicated and there ends up being a counterpart of each of them. They do some timey-wimey dimension hopping type stuff. And then later in the series, towards the end, we found they go to this planet because, they're planet hopping.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a whole society that was built by themselves, that other version of themselves, that ship that disappeared.
I've seen that concept played out in sci-fi.
So this other version of them where the ship disappeared, they thought they all died. They didn't. They ended up on this planet in the past, hundreds or thousands of years.
That's funny.
They're the founders of this whole civilization.
That's funny because there was a Deep Space Star Trek Deep Space Nine episode that was very similar to that, where they ended up going through an anomaly and then crashing on the planet and meeting their descendants, basically.
Oh, I didn't get to that one yet.
No? What season are you in?
Oh, I don't know.
Nah, okay. But
you'd have to ask Adam.
Okay, I'll be sure to ask him because then I'll be able to. That was a season 5 episode.
Oh yeah, I don't think we're not that
far. No, okay. But yeah.
So yeah, there's that, and I think that's a wild theory, but maybe something in there is something.
Interesting.
So there was the reflection thing that you brought up.
Yeah, I looked at it. I didn't.
A lot of people are talking about this. It's a huge debate right now in the Facebook groups. A lot of people are really convinced that is not Catalina in the reflection. Catalina being the actress who plays Tabitha.
Of course.
I see her.
Yeah, I do too.
It looks like her to me.
I saw one ridiculous post that was like, that's not Tabitha, it's Boyd. And I'm like, huh?
Boyd. That had to have been someone making fun of the people saying it's somebody else.
Maybe, but I don't know. With these
people were saying it's Jasmine.
Yeah, I saw that one.
People were saying it's a child.
Right.
Everyone who was saying it's not her seemed to think it was a blonde.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the whole, it's the sun on her highlights mixed with the fall colored trees that are behind it. That's notable too. It's
Yeah.
fall in wherever she is, and
Oh,
the
yeah,
seasons
okay.
are changing in Fromville.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But yeah, I don't see anything happening with the reflection. I feel like that's not a thing. But the people who are pretty confident that's not her, their take is she's not herself. She's literally like come into another person's body, kind of Quantum Leap style.
Right. That's an interesting concept.
Yeah, I mean, it's not impossible, but
right.
I don't see it.
No.
The clue they're seeing, I don't see it.
Mm.
But you never know.
Right.
Maybe we're wrong.
Yeah.
Related to this, I did see just one post about this. It was actually today, so I didn't really dig into it myself. But someone was claiming they shared screenshots of right before Tabitha gets pushed through the window.
Okay.
Like doing a frame by frame, they were able to find 2 frames where it's not Tabitha.
Okay.
I'm pretty confident that's just because her stunt double, who was about to get pushed out a window's face, got caught in a couple frames.
Right. That's possible.
I don't think there's some big clue to be found that it wasn't Catalina being pushed through the window.
Right. Just her stunt double.
Yeah. So I don't think that's anything, but people are really, really digging this apart.
Yes. And that's absolutely the From fandom for you. And you gotta love it. Do we have anything else?
That's all I have on my notes. Again, where are we? I don't know. There's a lot of still possibilities here.
I don't know where we go with.
So what I said before, no, we don't got answers. We got lots of clues.
Mm-hmm.
We got lots of clues. We got lots of puzzle pieces. And oh my goodness.
And at the very least, in this finale, we tied up Fatima and Ellis getting married. We resolved the Julie Randall and Mary situation.
Resolved the rhyme.
Right.
That's done. The rhyme's done. There's still some questions on like, well, what was going on with Martin and what was going to happen if they did fail, and how does that fit into the cycle of what's happened before?
Right.
And does it have anything to do with Christopher?
Mm-hmm.
There's still questions like about what's happened in the past, I think.
But at the very least, we didn't leave them unconscious with their eyes rolled back.
We've saved the day.
Right. So we
had to fight another fight.
Yes.
Which may or may not be going back to status quo with the monsters.
Right.
I kind of think they might have leveled up too.
Ooh. What do you think is going to happen with them?
I don't know. But it feels a little too calm.
Mm-hmm.
To have the whole rhyme thing be just done. Now, how long is it going to take them to realize that Tabitha's not coming back?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
And who's going to go looking for her?
I mean, we can't kill Jim now because he has to look after the kids.
Who's going to go looking for her, and are they going to go through the tree to get to the lighthouse to look for her?
The best bet would be Jade.
Or do they find her body at the tree and they stop looking because they think she's dead?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's possible, too.
Yeah. And what is going to happen with Jade? He's in the tunnels.
Right. Yeah.
What's going to happen with Boyd and his gunshot wound?
You know what? We should have had a scene where Jade and Tabitha kissed. Just get it over with. Before they depart from each other's lives for however long. Because we have no idea when they're going to see each other again. But, all right. So, any other things for this week's episode?
I think we'll leave it. We'll definitely come back and talk about the season some more.
Yes, more in depth.
Try and really get a list of our thoughts now that we know everything, and definitely want to bring in some other crazy theorists.
Yes.
And hear some crazy theories.
So next week we will definitely have a season 2 recap.
Well, next week I don't know if I'm going to be able to.
Oh.
Got stuff going on next week, remember.
Okay, so maybe.
We might have a hiatus week.
Okay. I'll do something. I'll throw some kind of video together. Maybe not related to From, but I'll do something.
My schedule for the next week's just a little up in the air and crazy.
All right.
But we'll definitely be back soon.
Yes.
With more From content.
Yes. We'll have the season 2 recap. We'll have interviews with Mr. Reed Price at the very least. And, we'll have some other people.
We're going to have Carla.
Yes, Carla. We got to get her on, along with her brother, Russell. So we have plenty of things to look forward to, including Quantum Leap content.
Quantum Leap. Trivia is still on the docket. I think we should do some From trivia.
Yeah,
I think we have a lot of people who would love to participate in that. Mm-hmm. And I think that the rest of the summer is going to be busy.
Yes.
But I hope all of you stick around for the ride, both From fans and Quantum Leap fans and everybody else who just, has become our friends and
Yes.
and wants to take a ride with us.
Yes, it's been a great season. I'm glad that I did this with you. It's been an experience. Met Carla. Just got to get one last reference in. And so, yeah, I appreciate everybody who's been a part of the conversation, as I was saying earlier, and I hope you will continue to be so. Stacie can be reached at...
I can be reached on Twitter and now Instagram at the same name, at TVN Coupon Talk.
And if you like this video and want to support the channel, there are a number of ways to do so. You can follow me on Twitter at Core Productions. You can join one of my Core Productions Facebook pages. You can buy something from the Core Productions store on Zazzle. You can buy me a coffee, which is a new way to support content creators such as ourselves. And of course, you can like, share, and comment on this podcast, as well as subscribing to our channel. This is Dave and Stacie from Core Productions, signing off.